Chapter 462. Times were developing, society was progressing, and the influence of modern civilization was everywhere. The Mongolians, who had lived a nomadic life for generations, were gradually changing their way of life. Many young people in the tribe went out to explore the bustling big cities and see the more wonderful world outside. Some never returned, and some went and came back again. But for those who left and those who continued to stick to this land, the prairie would always be their home, their root, and their spiritual sustenance that could not be erased by thousands of mountains and rivers. Lu Chen's song, "The Beautiful Prairie is My Home," was also the voice of the herdsmen, so it touched their hearts and shook their souls. They couldn't calm down for a long time. Good. Uncle Chien's roar woke up those who were still immersed in the song. Holding a big bowl of horse milk wine, he strode in front of Lu Chun and said in a deep voice, "Young man, this is the best song Chien have ever heard in my life. This bowl of wine is for you." This was Jejentana's father, a Mongolian man. He had the back of a tiger, the waist of a bear, and the appearance of a boorish man. His square face was dark red, and his hair was thick. He looked powerful and strong, and he exuded a valiant aura. But when he looked at Lu Chun, his eyes were full of admiration. Lu Chun quickly put down the horsehead zither and took the huge bowl with both hands. Uncle Chien was the owner of this hunting ground, equivalent to the tribe's leader. He personally toasted Lu Chun. Even if he was drunk, he couldn't refuse this bowl of wine. Fortunately, the horse milk wine was a low-alcohol wine, mild in nature, and not to the point of intoxication. So Lu Chun put the silver bowl to his mouth and drank the wine in one gulp, without missing a drop. Good. Uncle Chien praised loudly again and gave Lu Chun a thumbs up, and the surrounding herdsmen cheered in unison. Lu Chun conquered this group of unruly grassland men with his performance. Zhang Ku, who was sitting not far away, saw this and sighed in his heart. Although he was a film director and not a music professional, his understanding of music undoubtedly far exceeded that of ordinary people. Zhang Ke had never heard of "Beautiful Prairie My Home," but it was absolutely impossible for such a song with a beautiful melody and moving lyrics to remain unknown. The only explanation was that it was Lu Chen's original work, and he had improvised it after he came to the Mongolian steppe. In the circle, Lu Chun is famous for his creativity and is known as the number one of the new generation of singers. What kind of talent was that? Zhang Ke had seen many talented and capable young people, but Lu Chun had undoubtedly left the deepest impression on him. An idea suddenly popped into the director's mind. Begging Uncle asked, "Young man, who wrote the song you are singing?" "His name is Lu Chun, and he is Sister Fei, Er's boyfriend." At this time, Jejentana came out and revealed Lu Chen's identity. She looked at Lu Chun with longing eyes and asked, "Brother Lu Chun, this song is really beautiful. Can you teach me? I want to sing it to all the grassland people at this year's White Festival party." The White Festival was the most solemn and grand annual festival of the Mongolians, equivalent to the Spring Festival. Starting on the first day of the first lunar month, people made New Year's greetings to each other, toasted, dined, sang and danced to their heart's content, and had entertainment to celebrate the health and happiness of the whole year. Begging Uncle Chien smiled and touched his daughter's head. This was his most cherished pearl. Lu Chun said with a smile, "I wrote this song. If you like it, I'll let you sing it." "Really?" Jejentana was surprised and delighted. She clapped her hands and said, "That's great." Her laughter was as pleasant as a silver bell, full of joy and joy. Many people in the crew looked at Jejentana in a different way, because the latter obviously did not know that the price of song by Lu Chun was one of the highest in the circle. Lu Chun was able to rise miraculously in the entertainment circle and win the heart of Chun Fei. His talent in music creation was the most important factor, and he had made more than one or two new stars popular. Jejentana got the song "Beautiful Grassland My Home." Even if it was just a cover, as long as she manipulated it, did it mean that a star would rise on the grassland? Others could not get it, but she could get it with just a word. How could people not be envious, jealous, and hateful? Really? Begging Uncle Chien was also surprised. He widened his eyes, waved his hand, and said, "Bring another bowl of wine." The way this grassland man expressed his gratitude and admiration was always so simple and direct. It was hard for Lu Chun to refuse such hospitality, so he had to drink another big bowl of horse milk wine. Even if the alcohol content of horse milk wine was low, it could not withstand such drinking. After finishing the second bowl, his face turned red, and he was really a little drunk. Begging Uncle Chien laughed and patted Lu Chun on the shoulder. "Good man." Lu Chun could only smile bitterly. After the bonfire dinner, Lu Chun was supported by Chun Fe and staggered back to her tent. Helping Lu Chun lie down on the soft and comfortable bed, Chun Fe fetched some hot water, wrung a towel in the basin, and thoughtfully put it on his face. The heat seeped into the skin through the pores, making people feel comfortable, and also made Lu Chen's drunkenness dissipate a lot. He took a long and comfortable breath, and his whole person became much more sober. Chen Fei said coquettishly, "You drank too much last night." Lu Chun said helplessly, "I didn't want to, but they all came to get me drunk." In addition to the herdsmen, the crew members also tried to get him drunk. Even Lang had offered him a bowl, so how could he not drink? Of course he couldn't, so he drank too much. Chun Fei said in disgust, "You reek of alcohol. Don't touch me at night." Lu Chun chuckled and suddenly reached out to grab her, pulling her directly into his arms, and leaned over to kiss her. He said vaguely, "I want to touch you." Chun Fei giggled and resisted. She turned her head and said, "Then sing me a song, one I haven't heard before." She had made similar requests several times, and she was pleasantly surprised every time. This time, Lu Chun even gave Jejentana a song. Lu Chun gave up and pretended to be deep in thought. After a while, he said, "Got it." He hugged Chun Fei, and hummed softly in her ear. "In a faraway place, there is a good girl. When people pass by her accounting room, they will look back longingly. Her pink smiling face like the red sun. Her beautiful and moving eyes like the bright moonlight at night. I would like to be a little lamb, to follow her to herd sheep. I would like her to hold a thin whip, keep hitting me gently." Lu Chen's singing became very, very soft, and in the end, it was almost undetectable. Then it turned into the sound of even breathing. He couldn't resist the alcohol and had already fallen asleep. Chun Fei tightly leaned against Lu Chen's broad chest. She only wished that time would stop at this moment forever. It was so warm. Chapter 463. Early in the morning, when Lu Chun woke up from his sleep, the first thing he saw was Chun Fei curled up in his arms. She was still sleeping soundly with a faint smile on her lips. Lu Chun hugged her arm tighter and sniffed the familiar fragrance of his girlfriend. He didn't want to get up. Achoo! However, a naughty strand of hair accidentally touched Lu Chen's nose, causing him to sneeze. As a result, Chun Fei was woken up. Lu Chun rubbed his nose in embarrassment and asked with a smile, "You're awake? Why don't you sleep a little longer?" Chun Fei shook her head and leaned her body against Lu Chun lazily. She said in a sweet voice, "I still have filming today." It was wishful thinking to sleep in when working in Director Zhang's crew. No matter how famous you were, you still had to abide by his rules. Otherwise, the wisest choice was to leave. Zhang had reminded her yesterday, so Chun Fei didn't dare to take it lightly. Sigh. Lu Chun couldn't help but sigh. He traveled thousands of miles to visit the Mongolian grasslands. He thought that he could spend the night with Chun Fei and enjoy the scenery of the grasslands together, but it turned out to be just a dream. Chun Fei giggled and turned her head to kiss her boyfriend to comfort him. How could this be enough? Lu Chun had to press her under his body, ready to seize the time to do something indescribable. Speaking of which, the best time last night was wasted. It was an unforgivable mistake. After being separated for more than half a month, Chun Fei was also aroused and passionately catered to him. Sister Fei brother Lu Chun. Just when the two of them were about to explode, a clear shout came from outside the tent. "Are you guys up?" Jegantana, Lu Chun, who was like an arrow on the bowstring, suddenly felt as if a basin of ice water had been poured over his head. He couldn't help but curse in a low voice. What the hell was going on? Chun Fei, whose face was flushed, rolled her eyes at him coquettishly, struggled to get up from the bed, put on her coat, and walked out. Sister Jejentana, what's the matter? It turned out that Jejentana had brought breakfast to the two of them. There was milk tea, beans, cheese, and pies. They were all authentic Mongolian food, and they had just been made. Of course, there was a reason why the little girl was so attentive. It was because Lu Chan promised to teach her the song, Beautiful Grassland is My Home, last night, so she couldn't wait. It was really self-inflicted. Lu Chan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he had to go out to wash up. Fortunately, the breakfast was very good. The milk tea was mellow and fragrant, and the pies were delicious. Lu Chan ate a few of them in one go. After filling his stomach, he felt much more refreshed. After breakfast, Jejentana carried the harp over. Not only did this little Mongolian girl want to learn to sing, but she also wanted to play and sing like Lu Chun. Although she was young, she had already learned to play the harp, and the harp she used was an ancient harp passed down in her family. The little girl was so eager to learn, and she liked the song so much. Since Lu Chun had already promised, he certainly wouldn't hide anything. He first copied down the score of the song Beautiful Grassland is My Home. Then he sat at the entrance of the tent and taught Jejentana to play, carefully guiding her on the singing techniques. What surprised Lu Chun was that Jejentana not only had a beautiful voice, but she also had a very strong learning ability and a very good sense of music, so she was able to learn very quickly. After some guidance, Jejentana held the harp and sang by herself. She was already very good at it. The same song, Beautiful Grassland is My Home, came out of her mouth. The same tune, but she sang with a different charm and emotion. Although she was still quite inexperienced in singing, she still gave people a very moving feeling. Beautiful grassland is my home. The water is clear and the grass is beautiful. I love it. The grassland is like a green sea. Unknowingly, there were many herdsmen outside the tent. They were all attracted by Jejentana's singing and even forgot to do their work. When Jejentana finished singing Beautiful Grassland is My Home, everyone applauded in unison. Jejentana's face was red, and she looked very cute. The whole process was recorded by Chun Fei, who was sitting at the side with her phone. She uploaded the video to her blog, added a simple title, and posted it. Although the spring hunting ground was in the hinterland of the Mongolian grassland, it had been covered with mobile signal more than 10 years ago. One could still go online through the 4G high-speed network here. When Chun Fei was filming on the grassland, she would check her blog every day and post a few stills for her fans to see. This was also a form of promotion for the TV series. However, this morning's video post was especially different. That was because Chun Fei and Lu Chun's fans had finally found a guy who had been missing for a while. I was wondering where Lu Chun had gone. There hasn't been any news recently. Turns out he went to film a TV series. Does Lu Chun have a role in this TV series? I haven't seen him before. He's probably going to accompany my Fei. My Chun is mighty. They're not showing off their love this time. Who is this Mongolian girl? Could she be Lu Chun's student? She's so pretty. I like her. What's the name of this song? I've never heard it before. It's too good. Truth. Truth too. The fans' curiosity was immediately piqued by the video. Everyone asked if Lu Chun had been accompanying Chun Fei on the set and why he had not been seen for a while. Who is this Mongolian girl? And this song, the Waves blog was in an uproar, and the Shuaiquan hunting ground was also lively. Director Zhang Cook came over. Seeing this person, Chun Fei was so scared that he quickly put away his phone and quickly got up to say, "Director Zhang, you don't have to worry." Zhang smiled and waved his hand, saying, "I'm here to discuss something with Lu Chun. This great director was here for my beautiful home on the prairie. He wanted to get Lu Chun's authorization to use this song as an interlude in Grand Event Song Parade. Of course, the lyrics would have to be slightly modified. In this regard, Lu Chun would certainly not refuse. Any songwriter would not refuse to use their work in a big CCTV drama. This was a good thing to enhance their own style and status. It was usually something they could not ask for. As for the authorization fee, it did not matter at all. Interestingly, Zhang Ku originally planned to let Chen Fei sing this song, but after hearing Jejentana's voice just now, he changed his mind. This song would be sung by this Mongolian girl. Chapter 464. Chen Fei's number of fans on Waves had already exceeded 20 million and was currently approaching the 30 million mark. The rapid growth of her popularity was entirely due to the success of two popular TV series and her new album. She was now at the height of her popularity in the pop music industry. After entering the film and television industry, she had a smooth road all the way to the top. She had the posture of becoming the queen of film, television, and song. Therefore, although Chen Fei's blog fans were not the most, and there were many more than her fan activity was extremely high. The ratio of clicks, comments, forwards, and likes on a blog post was among the highest. The number of fans was very low, unlike many star artists who operated like zombies. A high number and high activity brought high commercial benefits. If one wanted to make a name for themselves through Chen Fei's blog, they would have to pay at least 1 or 2 million yuan. Even so, apart from formal endorsement products, Chen Fei rarely used blog posts to earn this kind of extra money. She treated Waves' blog as a platform for communication and interaction with her fans, not a tool for commercial profit. It was precisely because of this that fans were also keen to read her blog. Especially recently, Chen Fei would show off her love and abuse her love and single love from time to time on her blog, which always attracted a lot of criticism. Interestingly, among the netizens who read Chen Fei's blog, many were Lu Chen's fans. Through Chen Fei's blog, they could hear Lu Chen's original works from time to time. When this video was posted today, Chen Fei did not think too much about it. She liked Jejentana very much, and then felt that the scene of Lu Chen teaching her to play and sing was very beautiful and touching, so she filmed it and shared it with her fans. Beautiful things naturally had to be seen and experienced by everyone. But inadvertently, Chen Fei made Jejentana popular. As a Mongolian girl, Jejentana's appearance could first make the eyes of the majority of netizens light up. Her pure beauty and cuteness, coupled with very ethnic characteristics of clothing, coupled with a natural voice, instantly conquered countless otakus. Most importantly, she was accompanied by Lu Chen, and Chen Fei filmed her. The combination of the two was very influential. There was no need for deliberate promotion, and it could still produce a sensational effect. In addition, Beautiful Grassland is My Home, a song with distinct ethnic characteristics and theme style, also gave people a refreshing feeling. As a result, this video was widely forwarded on Waves' blog. Many people in the circle saw it and liked it, commented and praised it, and then quickly spread to forums, Tieba, and QQ groups. This was the power and charm of the internet. Something that had just happened thousands of miles away could be transmitted in all directions in an instant. It was like a butterfly flapping its wings on the grassland, and it could set off a storm in the distance. In the process, people couldn't help but ask curiously, "Who is this Mongolian girl?" Unfortunately, Chen Fei turned off her phone after posting her blog post. She had a lot of shooting tasks today. She needed to go over in advance to put on makeup and dress up. She had no time to pay attention to the feedback on the blog, so naturally, she couldn't answer fans' questions. On the other side, the discussion between Zhang Ku and Lu Chen went very smoothly. Zhang Ku also liked this song, Beautiful Grassland is My Home. The TV series he was shooting was also called Shengshi Long Song. Naturally, he needed a lot of musical works to enrich the theme. Ancient songs and ancient music were certainly indispensable. A song with distinctive ethnic characteristics like Beautiful Grassland is My Home could also be fully integrated into it. For Lu Chen, this impromptu song was different from his other popular works. Its real value could not and should not be measured by money. In fact, in his current position, money was very meaningless. Therefore, Lu Chen licensed this song to CCTV for a symbolic copyright fee of 1 yuan. This approach was not pioneered by Lu Chun. Of course, Lu Chun could clearly negotiate the licensing fee with CCTV according to his own position. CCTV could definitely pay hundreds of thousands of yuan. But in this way, he couldn't expect CCTV to invest resources to promote the creator or content related to the creator. Therefore, there was no point in haggling over it. The licensing fee for a song was at most tens of thousands. It was very cost-effective to use it in exchange for a friendly cooperative relationship with CCTV. Zhang Ke contacted the relevant departments of CCTV, and Lu Chun contacted his own studio. With the help of fax, the two sides quickly settled the contract. It only took more than an hour. Zhang Ke was very happy about this. After signing the contract, he shook hands with Lu Chun and said, "Don't worry, I won't bury this work." In Director Zhang's view, Lu Chun was really considerate. If he bargained with CCTV for a small profit, it would inevitably take up a lot of his time and energy. That would be very bad for his mood. Since Lu Chun was willing to pay, he must give something in return. This was also the rule of the circle. Lu Chun said with a smile, "Thank you for your kindness, Director Zhang." Zhang Ke waved his hand. He thought for a moment and said, "There's no other way today. Tomorrow, I'll rearrange the work and give Chun Fer a day off. You can go out and have fun." It was undoubtedly rare for a great director like Zhang Ke to change the shooting plan for an actor without special circumstances or irresistible reasons. It was also because he appreciated Lu Chun and Chun Fei. In addition, Lu Chun flew over from Hong Kong to visit the set. It was reasonable to give the two young people some time to get together. Lu Chun was naturally grateful. The next day, Chun Fei really got the opportunity to take a day off. So Lu Chun borrowed 2 horses from Uncle Begging Face and went to the hunting ground with Chun Fei. They enjoyed the beautiful scenery of the prairie together and were affectionate. It was a pity that good times were always short-lived. On the 3rd day after arriving at the hunting grounds, Lu Chun had no choice but to embark on his return journey. When it was time to say goodbye, Chun Fei was reluctant to leave, while Jejin Tana's eyes were red from crying. Although they had only known each other for a short time, the Mongolian girl had a special feeling for Lu Chun. She really hoped that Lu Chun could stay here and teach her how to play the piano and sing. Seeing that she was so sad, Lu Chun had to make an appointment with her to come to Beijing when she had a chance. Uncle Begging Face, on behalf of the herdsmen in the hunting ground, sent Lu Chun a hada that represented good wishes. After saying goodbye to his beloved girlfriend and the Mongolian prairie, Lu Chun returned to Beijing on November 7th. Chapter 465. It was already past 11 o'clock in the evening when he returned to his home in Ziqing Yuan in the capital. Lu Chun took a hot bath first. After washing away the dust and fatigue, he did not immediately go to bed. Instead, he sat in the study and sorted out his recent work in detail. After the official establishment of the film and television studio in Hong Kong, it would inevitably become normal for him to fly back and forth from Beijing to Hong Kong for a long time to come. If he did not arrange his work in an orderly manner, there would be trouble. At present, the focus of Lu Chun's work was definitely in Hong Kong. The new film, A Chinese Ghost Story, was about to start shooting. In order to catch up with the list of films supported by the new policy next year, his existence was absolutely indispensable. It was not that Lu Chun was not needed in the capital. On the contrary, many businesses could not do without him, such as advertising endorsements, commercial performances, film and television cooperation. With the hot release of the new album and the great success of the 2 TV series, more and more people came to seek cooperation. Beijing Television, Zhejiang Television, Crown Pictures, SPG, China Brothers, and other partners made a lot of money in the TV series full of romance and strongly requested to start shooting a new TV series. It didn't matter if Lu Chun went to Hong Kong to shoot a movie. First, he had to come up with a new script, set up a crew, recruit actors, rent a set, and so on. At that time, as long as Lu Chun found time to shoot it, it would be fine. Their voices were so strong that Lu Chun and the studio could not ignore it. Although it was definitely too late this year, it was not a problem to start shooting the new TV series in the first half of next year. So he had to write the script for the third TV series. According to Lu Chen's plan, this new TV series will be the last one in his trilogy of urban romance TV series. After shooting, the future TV series will be fully focused on the big IP plan. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. A piece of A4 copy paper was filled with his writing. After several revisions, his thinking gradually became clear. Ring ring at this time. The landline phone on the desk rang. The caller ID showed that it was Lu Shi. Lu Chen answered the phone. Sister? Lu Shi asked, when did you come back? Lu Chen replied, I just came back. I was afraid that you were already asleep, so I didn't call you. You haven't slept yet? How can I sleep? Lu Shi snappily said, you found a good seedling in the Mongolian steppe. Why didn't you sign him? Lu Chen was confused. What good seedlings? Lu Shi was exasperated. Jejin Tana, that Mongolian girl, is now very popular on the internet. She was signed by Chun Fair Studio. Lu Chen had never expected that Lu Shi would call him in the middle of the night to talk about Jejin Tana. He had no idea that Jejin Tana had become famous on the internet, so he hurriedly asked what was going on. Lu Shi saw that Lu Chen really did not know the truth, so she told him the whole story. It turned out that the morning before yesterday, Chun Fair posted a video on his blog. The content of the video was the scene of Lu Chen teaching Jejin Tana to play and sing The Beautiful Grassland Is My Home. As soon as the video was posted, it immediately became popular on the internet, and the number of views kept rising. The number of comments and reposts on Chun Fair's blog post had exceeded 1 million today, and it reached the top of the homepage of Waves' blog. Then at that time, many netizens wanted to know who this Mongolian girl was. It was only last night that Chun Fair briefly introduced her in a new blog post. Thus, the 14-year-old Jejin Tana became a real internet celebrity overnight. That night, her name was on the hot list of online searches. Then this morning, Chun Fair Studio announced on its official blog that they had officially signed Jejin Tana. So that's how it is. Lu Chen finally understood. He remembered that when they were at the spring hunting ground, Chun Fair had said that Jejin Tana had the potential to become a star. At that time, Lu Chen did not pay much attention to it. He did not expect that Chun Fair would directly sign Jejin Tana. Lu Shi was unhappy. She scolded, "You're forgetting about your sister when you have a wife. Wouldn't it be better if we signed Jejin Tana ourselves? We can't possibly rely on you to support the Beijing studio forever, right?" The original purpose of the establishment of Lu Chen Studio was to serve Lu Chen alone, but as his fame grew and his career grew, the studio's expansion was inevitable. Now, Beijing Studio had been doing business with the outside world. The recording studio that had been invested in the construction of was not idle, and the daily work schedule was full. But this obviously could not meet Lu Shi's expectations, because in the circle, many star studios were developing into entertainment agencies. She also hoped to expand Lu Chen Studio into a real first-class company in the industry. Therefore, the original strategy of not poaching people and not signing people was changing. After more than a year, Lu Shi had treated Lu Chen Studio as her own business. She had long given up the plan to apply for graduate school and devoted herself to work. It could be said that without her efforts, Lu Chen might not have achieved what he had today. Now seeing such a good seedling like Jejin Tana being signed by Chun Fair, even if the other party was her future sister-in-law, Lu Shi was very unhappy. He had a wife and forgot about his sister. Lu Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. Why don't I talk to Fair? He believed that as long as he asked, Chun Fair would definitely sign Jejin Tana over. Lu Shi was not fooled. Don't try to shift the blame. Do you think I would fight with your girlfriend? If you have the ability, you can discuss with Fair and merge the two studios into a new company. Then you don't have to separate. Lu Chen suddenly realized that after saying so much, this was probably his sister's real idea. But thinking about it carefully, her proposal was very reliable and operable. It was the so-called strong combination, and the effect was definitely greater than two. The only problem was that the two were not married or engaged yet. Merging the studio was not a small matter. He did not know what Chen Feier thought. Of course, Lu Shi did not really want Lu Chun to make the decision immediately. She just made a good suggestion. In the end, the decision was still made by Lu Chun and Chen Feier. His sister cared about Lu Chen's life and told him about his mother and sister in Binhai. Although there was a lot of chatter, Lu Chun felt warm in his heart. When he ended the call, it was already midnight. He reorganized his thoughts, then made a document on the computer, saved it, and went to rest. Chapter 466. Good morning, Director Lu. The beautiful front desk lady bowed, and her sweet voice made Lu Chun couldn't help but take another look at her. The front desk of Lu Chen's studio had always been Sister Xiao Mei. Not long ago, she was transferred to Lu Shi's assistant, which could be considered a big upgrade. This front desk lady was recently recruited. At that time, Lu Chun just went to Shanjiang. It was said that the news of recruiting a new front desk lady was released, and there was an endless stream of beautiful women coming to apply for the job. The competition was very fierce. It was a pity that he didn't get to see it, but this carefully selected new employee was undoubtedly very pleasing to the eye. Lu Chun nodded. Morning. Although the studio was founded by him, the position of general manager was always held by Lu Shi. Lu Chun himself was originally the music director, and now he was the art director. He asked one more question. What's your name? The front desk lady smiled sweetly and said, My name is Wang Yali. You can call me Shaoli. Director Lu, Manager Zhang of Shanghai Publishing House is waiting for you in the reception room. Do you want to meet him in the office, or? Lu Chun said, I'll go see him directly. Shanghai Publishing House was one of the top 10 private publishing houses in the country. Its headquarters was located in Beijing. When Lu Chun published the novel Autumn in My Heart, this publishing house bought the copyright with a high price of 15% plus 500,000 yuan. Later, the novel version of Full House of Romance was also cooperated with Shanghai Publishing House. So far, the total sales of these two novels by Lu Chun had exceeded 5 million. As a work adapted from a film and TV series, the results were very dazzling. Putting aside the influence of the work itself, Shanghai Publishing House also contributed a lot. Therefore, in the list of partners of Lu Chun's studio, Shanghai Publishing House was the first. Manager Zhang of Shanghai Publishing House, Zhang Yaocheng, and Lu Chun knew each other. This deputy general manager, cum chief editor, personally ran to the studio to wait for Lu Chun. Of course, Lu Chun had to personally come out to receive him. Manager Zhang, long time no see. In the reception room, Lu Chun once again saw Zhang Yaocheng, a middle-aged man with a refined temperament. Zhang Yaocheng shook hands with Lu Chun and said with a smile, Director Lu, you are a busy man. It's not easy to find you. Lu Chun was ashamed. Recently, I have been preparing to shoot a movie in Xiangjiang. I really can't be here. Zhang Yaocheng said, This time, let me directly sign the contract. This time, let's just sign the contract. At this time, Zhang Yaocheng introduced the young woman he brought with him to Lu Chun. This is Zhou Lu, my assistant editor. She is in charge of editing The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Lu Chun nodded to the other party and said with a smile, Hello, Li. Zhou Lu was in her 20s. She looked ordinary and wore thick glasses. Facing Lu Chun, she was obviously a little flustered. She wanted to reach out, but retracted her hand. Her face was flushed. Lu Chun said with a smile, Thank you for your hard work. Let's talk in the office. Let's talk in the office. Of course, Zhang Yaocheng had no objections. He silently glared at Zhou Lu, a little exasperated at her for failing to meet his expectations. He brought his niece here today because he wanted her to see the world, get to know Lu Chun, a promising young man, and expand her horizons and contacts. He didn't expect Zhou Lu to be so bad. She didn't have the confidence she usually had at work. It could only be said that Lu Chen's charm was too great, or his halo was too dazzling. Zhou Lu, a young girl, couldn't keep calm. After sitting in Lu Chen's office, Zhou Lu finally reacted. She took out a thick stack of books from her briefcase. There were 5 books in total, and she put them in front of Lu Chun. Zhang Yaocheng explained, "This is a sample book specially made by our publishing house. The title was written by the famous calligrapher Mr. Fu Guangyuan. Please review it, Director Lu." Lu Chun picked up the book on the top and looked at it carefully. Although it was just a sample book, it was basically not much different from an official published book. The color laser-printed cover was very high resolution. The 4 big black characters, the smiling, the proud wanderer, were bold and powerful, showing the extraordinary skills of the writer. The strokes of the pen had an unrestrained, chivalrous spirit. Lu Chun was very satisfied. The smiling, the proud wanderer was the test of Lu Chen's big IP plan. In May and June of this year, he published the online version Unwavering reading under the pen name Remembering the Present and the Past. At the beginning, the performance of the smiling, the proud wanderer was terrible. There were very few clicks, favorites, and comments. It was very bad. But when Lu Chun continued to update the book to more than 200,000 words, the performance of the book improved greatly. More and more readers liked the book, and it was also invited to sign a contract with the book website. Of course, it was impossible for Lu Chun to sign a contract with Waves Reading. Later on, he slowed down the speed of updating the book. When the book reached 500,000 words, he stopped updating and made a publication announcement. At this time, the number of favorites of the smiling, the proud wanderer on Waves Reading had exceeded 30,000. Lu Chun was not in a hurry for the operation of this new martial arts novel. Unlike movies or TV shows, a good book's reputation needed time to be accumulated and brewed. Just like wine in the cellar, the longer it was kept, the more fragrant it would be. Now that it was almost ready, Lu Chun would officially publish it and push it to the market. Then he would properly operate it to pave the way for a series of works such as The Legend of the Condor Heroes and Demigods and Semi-Devils in the future. There were 5 volumes of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, with about 1 million words. The design and binding of the book were antique, and the layout of the text was neat. Undoubtedly, Shanghai Publishing House had put a lot of effort into it. When Lu Chun was reviewing the sample book, Zhang Yaocheng was not calm. When Lu Chun Studio brought the manuscript over, the publishing house had a dispute on the specific terms of the contract because the author of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, was not famous in the martial arts circle and had no previous works. There was definitely a risk in publishing such a book. It was easy to lose a lot of money if the royalty and the guarantee were involved. But after Zhang Yaocheng read The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, and knew the feedback of the readers who read this book on Waves Reading, he resolutely decided to sign the contract according to the highest level of treatment for authors. This is not only the need to continue the good cooperation with Lu Chun Studio, but more importantly, Zhang Yaocheng has a strong interest in this martial arts novel. His professional sensitivity tells him that in the traditional book reading market, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer definitely has a place. Therefore, after knowing that Lu Chun had come back from Hong Kong, he immediately went to visit him and sent the sample book that he had carefully prepared to ensure that he could get the publishing contract. Zhang Yaocheng believed that his sincerity was enough to get this cooperation. And in fact, he was not disappointed. Chapter 467. Happy Cooperation. In the meeting room, Zhang Yaocheng, the Deputy General Manager of Shanghai Publishing House, and Lu Shi, the General Manager of Lu Chun Studio, signed the publishing contract for The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. Zhang Yaocheng shook hands with Lu Shi and Lu Chun with a big smile on his face, and said sincerely, "Don't worry, we, Shanghai Publishing House, will devote all our resources to the promotion of this novel and make The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer a hit in the book market at the end of the year." There were 5 volumes of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, with 1 million words. According to the publishing contract signed by both parties, the first print run would be 100,000 copies of the hardcover edition and 200,000 copies of the paperback edition. The total first print run would reach 1.5 million copies. For a novel written by a newcomer, and it was not a traditional best-selling novel, the first print run of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was undoubtedly too large. If it did not sell well, Shanghai Publishing House would suffer a great loss. As the leader of this publishing cooperation, Zhang Yaoqing also bore a considerable risk. To some extent, he was betting on his career and reputation in the circle. Of course, Zhang Yaoqing would not fight a battle he was not sure of. In addition to his confidence in the quality of the book, he knew the popularity of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer on the internet, and the promotion of Shanghai Publishing House, Lu Chun and Chun Fei Studios. The real risk was not that big. The two big names had more than 50 million fans on Wave's blog. Even with a discount, the sales of 300,000 copies was not a big deal. The serious thing was that if The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer became a hit under Zhang Yaoqing's leadership and created a new best-selling novel genre, then his reputation and status in the circle would definitely be enhanced big. Lu Shi smiled and said, "Thank you, General Manager Zhang." "You're welcome," Zhang Yaoqing asked tentatively. "To be honest, I admire the author of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer very much. He must not be an ordinary person to be able to write such a wonderful novel. Can you invite him over for dinner?" In this publishing contract, Lu Chun Studio signed the contract as the agent of the author, and the author himself did not appear. Zhang Yaoqing did not find any information about remembering now and ancient on the internet. This made him very curious, and he wanted to take this opportunity to get to know him. If The Smiling, Proud Wanderer really sells well, then it will be easy to talk about the follow-up works. Although Lu Chun Studio is the sole agent of the author, it also has to consider the author's preference, right? Zhang Yaoqing didn't mean anything else. It was nothing more than the professional experience of a veteran. Lu Chun and Lu Shi looked at each other, and the latter said with a smile, "I'm sorry, Mr. Zhang. This author doesn't like to socialize, and he has transferred all the copyrights to our studio. So, if there's a chance to get the author's consent in the future, then we can arrange it." While explaining, Lu Shi quietly rolled her eyes at Lu Chun. It was all his mysterious tricks. In fact, Lu Shi could also understand Lu Chun's scruples. He was already so good at writing songs and singing, and he was also a good screenwriter and actor. If he published a novel and became a real best-selling author, it would make people speechless. Sometimes Lu Shi couldn't figure out how many things were hidden in her brother's head. She had never seen him have so many talents before, and they suddenly burst out. It was not a bad thing to keep a low profile. Zhang Yaoqing regretted, "That's a pity." He didn't think that Lu Shi was deliberately perfunctory to prevent him from contacting the author, because with the strength and status of Lu Chun Studio now, there was no need to play this kind of trick. Moreover, many talented writers did not like to socialize. Often, only by devoting themselves wholeheartedly to writing could they create truly outstanding and classic works. After seeing Zhang Yaoqing and Lu Shi off, Lu Shi said to Lu Chun, "Xiaoqiu and others are waiting in the studio." Lu Chun couldn't help patting his head. "They're here too?" Lu Shi said with a smile, "You are now a big shot in the circle, and people are watching your every move. So as soon as you came back, everyone came to your door. I think we need to give you another assistant." Lu Chun couldn't help laughing, shook his head, and said, "I'm going to the recording studio." In the studio's recording studio, Lu Chun met the three beautiful girls of MSN again. The MSN girl group under Flying Stone Records has now become one of the most popular girl groups in the domestic pop music world. Its debut album, Not Yet Lovers, has now won double platinum. The number of fans on Wave's blog has exceeded 10 million. Announcements, commercial performances, and endorsements are all over the place. Flying Stone Records did not forget the great contributor behind the popularity of MSN. They have always maintained a good cooperative relationship with Lu Chun Studio. They even outsourced part of the recording studio business to the studio, so that the latter studio, which originally had no profit plan, actually made a lot of money. Of course, there was no free lunch in the world. Good cooperation was due to common interests. Last month, Flying Stone Records sent an invitation to Lu Chun Studio for 3 works, which were still tailor-made for MSN. In the publicity of Flying Stone Records and MSN's official blog, The contract amount was as high as 5 million yuan, which definitely created a new record in the industry and made many people in the circle dumbfounded. But the problem is that at present, the price of Lu Qin's songs is 1 million per song. Not everyone can get works from him at this price, and only a partner like Flying Stone Records can get the moonlight first. 10. The pavilion closest to the water is the pavilion closest to the water. Brother Lu Qin. Seeing Lu Qin appear, Mu Xiaochu, who was chatting with Wang Hui and others in the monitoring room, quickly greeted him in surprise. Her pretty little face smiled like a flower, with joy from the bottom of her heart. Speaking of which, the two hadn't seen each other for a while. "Hello, Teacher Lu." "Good morning, Teacher Lu." The other two members of MSN, Su Jejia and Ning Tian, also respectfully got up and said hello. The two of them addressed Lu Qin differently from Mu Xiaochu, because the latter had a better relationship with Lu Qin, and in the fan circle of both sides, fans had always treated Mu Xiaochu as Lu Qin's sister. Among the three members of MSN, Mu Xiaochu had the most fans. Her personal fans on Wave's blog were more than Su Jejia and Ning Tian combined. Lu Qin said with a smile, "Hello." The three beautiful girls surrounded Lu Qin like stars surrounding the moon. Mu Xiaochu asked curiously, "Brother Lu Qin, is the Mongolian steppe fun? I've seen the photos that Sister Fei sent me. The scenery there is so beautiful." Lu Qin nodded and said, "It's fun. I'll take you with me next time." Mu Xiaochu smiled and said, "That's great. You can't go back on your word." Lu Qin smiled and said, "Do you want a pinky swear?" Su Jejia and Ning Tian looked at each other and saw envy in each other's eyes. Chapter 468. Lu Qin and Mu Xiaochu met each other because they participated in Singing China. At that time, both of them were grassroots. One was a Beijing drifter struggling in Beijing, and the other was a freshman with no fame, background, and connections. In the end, both of them were ranked among the top 10 singers in the country at the same time. Many of Lu Qin's fans, especially the members of Lu Jiajun, knew and liked the girl who often appeared around Lu Qin at that time. Everyone affectionately called her little sister Xiaochu. Later, when Lu Qin and Chun Fei fell in love, it did not affect the relationship between the two. Mu Xiaochu could big intimacy with Lu Qin, and even if they were photographed by reporters, they did not have to worry about being exposed to gossip. And it was precisely this relationship that made MSN the object of envy and jealousy of countless artists struggling at the bottom. In the circle, Lu Qin has the nickname Golden Touch. It is said that any singer, as long as he gives guidance, will be able to become famous and popular. His works are a guarantee of sales. But nowadays, it is basically impossible for ordinary singers and artists to get the guidance of Lu Qin. Even if they are willing to pay an amazing price, they may not have the opportunity to squeeze into the list of song invitations. Therefore, Su Jejia and Ning Tian are very envious of the friendship between Mu Xiaochu and Lu Qin, but they are absolutely not jealous, because they know very well that the success of MSN is inseparable from Lu Qin, and it is also inseparable from Mu Xiaochu. You try recording it first, and let me listen to it. Flying Stone Records has its own recording studio, and has a number of experienced and well-known recording artists and a large number of professional talents in the industry. But MSN's new songs are still recorded in Lu Qin's studio. On the one hand, it is convenient for Lu Qin to give guidance on the spot. On the other hand, it also represents the attitude of Flying Stone Records. Not only that, Flying Stone Records also sent a recording artist to join Lu Qin's studio to help Wang Hui, who is already too busy to breathe, manage the recording studio. Otherwise, a lot of work would not be completed in time. The recording artist's surname was Hao. He was in his 30s, tall and thin, with long hair. He was a little arrogant, but in front of Lu Qin, he was still very respectful, not daring to put on any airs. MSN's new song was recorded by him. The three girls entered the recording studio one by one and put on huge monitoring headphones. After brewing for a moment, the prelude music quietly sounded in the monitoring room for the high-quality sound system. Mu Xiaochu, Su Jejia, and Ning Tian looked very serious as they sang along with the music. Because we cannot fly, so the voyage of happiness is long. It was inevitable that there would be storms lying in ambush ahead. Want to try to separate our clasp hands? If you're not afraid, I won't panic if you don't panic. When we crossed the ocean of love, he would rejoice that he didn't give up in the end. On the bustling shore, the tears along the way, they were all buried as treasures. The name of this song was Ocean of Love. It was the theme song tailored by Lu Chun for MSN's second album. It was also the most important of the three works. Different from the immaturity of Not Yet Lovers, Ocean of Love tended to be mature in style. There was a strong determination and desire for love in the sadness, which increased the difficulty of singing a lot. Compared with the recording of Not Yet Lovers, the growth of NSN was visible. They had a very tacit understanding. A glance was enough to communicate a lot of information. Their grasp of the emotion of the work was more in place, which made people feel enjoyment when listening. The voices of the three girls were all excellent, but they were by no means the same. Mu Xiaochu's sweetness, Su Jiajia's mellowness, and Ning Tian's clarity formed the unique charm of this girl group. This kind of charm was vividly displayed through the song Ocean of Love. The turbulent ocean of love. There are too many sad waves. Let's not be like that. Let's not regret. Let's cross the ocean together. Let's go to the other side together. When it came to the climax of the chorus, the transformation of the three people's aura and the seamless connection were perfect. It was impossible to achieve this level without a long time of practice. Although it was the first audition today, the effect had reached the level of official recording. Lu Chun, who was listening in the monitoring room, showed a knowing smile. They were giving him a surprise. The music score of this song was composed by Lu Chun for MSN when he first arrived in Hong Kong. After more than half a month, they handed in a perfect answer sheet. There must be the supervision and guidance of professionals in Flying Stone Records, and the efforts of the three girls were indispensable. 10. Flying Stone Records, whether it was being a person or singing, whether they put their heart into it or not, it was completely different. This effort alone was worthy of praise. After the song, Ocean of Love, was sung, the three girls opened their eyes at the same time. Applause rang out in the monitoring room. They saw Lu Chun and the recorder, as well as several other staff of the recording studio, applauding through the thick glass. They looked at each other and smiled, with joy from the bottom of their hearts on their faces. Singing a good song can not only bring pleasure to the listeners, but it is also a very happy and fulfilling thing for the singer. Although they sang it very well for the first time, according to the requirements of the procedure, Mu Xiaochu and others still recorded it several times. During this period, Lu Chen also pointed out some details to make the title song perfect. Tian, the title song is very beautiful. By the time everyone came out of the recording studio, it was already noon. Mu Xiaochu took Lu Chen's arm and said, "Brother Lu Chen, let's have lunch together, okay?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "Are you treating?" The three girls couldn't have asked for more, and they nodded quickly. Lu Chen said sternly, "You can treat us, but you must let me pay, otherwise I won't go." Su Jiejia and Ning Tian were stunned. Only Mu Xiaochu giggled and said, "Then we'll treat you to a big meal." Lu Chen was joking. They chatted and laughed, and they had lunch in a nearby restaurant. In the afternoon, they continued to record the other two songs. In the evening, the official blogs of Lu Chen Studio and Chun Fei Studio released the same blog post at 8 o'clock sharp. The basic content of the blog post was that the two studios signed the copyright of the novel The Smiling, Proud Wanderer by the author Yi Jingu. It would be officially published this month, and it was expected to be filmed in the second half of next year. It was the first time that the two studios released the same blog post at the same time, and the content involved the new TV series shooting plan. Naturally, it inevitably attracted the attention of countless fans and people in the industry. Lu Chen and Chun Fei Er's new TV series was actually a martial arts film, which surprised many people. In turn, it also aroused a strong interest in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. What kind of martial arts book could make the two TV stars, who had created domestic and foreign ratings records, recommend it so grandly? For a time, on major search engines, the search volume of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer suddenly skyrocketed. Note: Ocean of Love lyricist, Rinchang/composer, Heiko Schmidt, Roberto Rosen, Jade Violon. Chapter 469. The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was first published on Wave's literature website in May of this year. In the absence of a contract or recommendation, it gradually accumulated considerable popularity by relying on the word of mouth of readers. Many readers spontaneously promoted this rare martial arts book in forums and QQ groups. The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer fans have set up more than a dozen groups, which has a certain influence in the niche category of online literature. But this book is obviously a physical book, which is very different from the current mainstream novels on the internet. Therefore, the search volume on the internet is not high, and it is in a state of tepid popularity. As of October, the index of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer on the search list of the largest domestic search engine, Flash Search, is more than 20,000, ranking very low in the same type of search, far from the top 100. However, when Lucian and Sean Fayer's studio announced that they had signed the copyright of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and prepared to shoot a TV series next year, this long martial arts novel instantly became popular on the internet. By 11 o'clock in the evening, the keywords of Flash Search had been searched more than 5 million times, and soon it was on the hot search list on the homepage of Flash Search. In these search traffic, most of it was directed to Wave's literature. In the face of the surging IP calls, the website of Wave's literature felt that it was a dog's day. Of course, a large increase in traffic is a good thing. At present, the competition in domestic online literature is very fierce. The popularity of IP has created one legend after another. The value of popular and best-selling online novels is getting higher and higher. In order to win this lucrative market, the website is racking its brains to promote and market. In the absence of any advanced preparation, so many netizens were attracted. It was like a big pie falling from the sky, and it felt a little incredible. But the biggest problem is that although The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was first published on Wave's literature, it has not been signed by the website. All of its copyright has always been firmly in the hands of the author. The author can sell the copyright to whoever he wants. Wave's literature can only look at it and drool, but it can't get any benefits. On the other hand, if this book has been signed to Wave Literature and Lu Chun and Sean Fayer's studio want to buy the copyright, it is impossible without a lot of money. Who doesn't know the ability of these two to make TV series? Physical publishing, film and television adaptation, animation, games and movies. Looking at a big piece of fat meat in front of their eyes, but they can only touch the smell of oil. How can they not be depressed? The website management is depressed, and they have to vent their anger on the staff below them. The responsible editor and the chief editor have to suffer. How can a work that Lu Chun and Sean Fayer be bad? Moreover, the performance of this book on the website itself was very good. You should have paid a price to buy it out in the first place. You wouldn't have missed such a good opportunity. It should be paid to buy it at the Wave's literature book. In fact, the editor was really wronged. When Lu Chun released The Smiling, Proud Wanderer on Immerse Books, the purpose was only to test the response of readers, and he never thought of giving up the publishing rights. Lu Chun didn't care about the money from the subscription fee. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was the test of his wuxia IP plan. All the copyrights should be firmly in his hands. How could the editor and chief editor of Wave's reading not feel wronged? It was a pity that even they didn't know the details. Because of them, they really missed a popular IP novel. Especially on the second day, the number of collections of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer on Waves surged from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. They all regretted that they had given away the book to someone else. Of course, reading on Waves was not without its benefits. At least there were many fans who were attracted by its fame. Most of the readers of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer were new users. The positive benefits brought to the website could not be underestimated. The online version of this book had a word count of 500,000, which was equivalent to 2.5 volumes of content. All of it was free to read, so it was naturally very attractive to readers. It was the first time that the smiling, the proud martial artist appeared in the eyes of the public. As time went by, its reputation would spread more and more. At the same time, the physical book of the smiling, the proud wanderer was about to go on sale. With enough time to brew, the TV series scheduled to start shooting next year was bound to attract a lot of attention. This was the prelude to Lu Chen's great wuxia IP plan. Are you satisfied now? On the second day after the announcement, Chen Fei-er talked to Lu Chen on the phone. She laughed and said, "You won't blame me for stealing Sister Jejentana's signature, right?" Lu Chen smiled bitterly and said, "I didn't blame you in the first place. I heard that Sister Lu, she has a problem with that." Chen Fei-er was well informed. She explained, "Actually, it was my fault. I didn't expect that posting the video of you and Jejentana on the blog would cause such a big reaction. I was afraid that it would affect her life, so I signed Jejentana directly." Because of the video recorded by Chen Fei-er, Jejentana unexpectedly became an internet celebrity. In today's entertainment industry, she was bound to become a money tree in the eyes of some people. Even if she was in the boundless Mongolian grassland, people would still find her. With Jejentana's innocence and kindness, it was too easy for her to lose herself in the strange and dazzling entertainment industry. Chen Fei didn't want to ruin this beautiful and lovely Mongolian girl because of a moment of quickness, so she signed her to her own studio to prevent other people from thinking about it. In fact, the contract Chen Fei-er signed with Jejentana was very loose. If Jejentana didn't want to, she could still live a carefree life on the grassland. If she wanted to see how wonderful the outside world was and wanted to appear on TV, then Chen Fei's network was enough to protect her so that she didn't need to contact the dark side of the circle. This was Chen Fei's responsibility and Jejentana's luck. Understanding Chen Fei's good intentions, Lu Chen was very touched. His girlfriend had a gentle and delicate heart, which was also his luck. "Actually, sister, I know." Chen Fei-er smiled and interrupted his explanation. "Sister Lu, she definitely isn't angry, and I've already called her, so the studio issued an announcement at the same time." Lu Chen was convinced. "You guys colluded." Chen Fei-er smiled. "You're so busy with work, so you don't need to manage a lot of things yourself. Just take control of the overall situation. By the way, I have good news for you." Lu Chen's attention was immediately diverted. "What good news?" Chapter 470. The good news that Chen Fei-er mentioned was related to the Global Chinese Original Songs Chart, which would be held in Beijing on December 31st this year. Before 2016, the domestic pop music festival was mainly composed of 3 major music charts. They were the Asian Chinese Gold Songs Chart, the Chinese Original Music Chart, and the Chinese Music Chart. Among them, the first 2 were more authoritative and influential. It was the Asian Chinese Original Songs Chart and the Chinese Music Chart that had been reorganized and merged. It could be said that it was a powerful combination. The Global Chinese Original Songs Chart, after the merger of the 2 festivals, was undoubtedly the most important music award in the Chinese pop music industry. It directly crushed the Chinese Music Chart, which was led by Shonen TV. This year was the first year of the Global Chinese Original Songs Chart, which had a special meaning. Most of the people in the circle had already grasped the basic information about this music festival that was highly anticipated. For example, the Chinese Original Songs Chart had a total of 24 awards, including Best Male and Female Singer, Best Album, Best Lyrics, Best Composition, Best Newcomer, Best Orchestra, Best New Group, Best MV, etc. The time was fixed on the last day of each year, and the venue was the National Grand Theater. Whether it was the scale or the layout, it had reached the national level. It was bound to have an impact on the Chinese circle in Asia and even the world. Any aspiring musician wouldn't want to miss such a grand music event. Of course, it was very difficult to get a place in it. According to the insider information that Chen Fe got, Lu Chun had already received many nominations and was just waiting to be announced. According to the rules of the Global Chinese Original Songs Chart, each award could not be more than 5 nominations, and only one could win. There would not be a situation where there were double yolks or multiple yolks. The organizing committee of the Golden Songs Chart had undoubtedly learned a lesson from other awards. In the past, in many awards in the film and music industry, the situation of dividing the pork was quite serious. It was very common for 2 best actors or best actresses to appear at a film festival at the same time. There were even 3 of them on the same stage, which was very embarrassing. This kind of awards based on seniority was criticized by the audience, which led to the value and credibility of the awards being reduced big. As a result, in the end, some winners refused to accept the awards. There could only be one winner for each of the major awards on the Golden Melody chart. Chen Feier had been in the industry for more than 10 years. Her connections in the circle were not something that Lu Chun could compare with. Therefore, before Lu Chun got the news, she already knew a lot of inside information. You will definitely be nominated for Best Male Singer, Best Album, Best Lyrics, and Best Composition. Chen Feier said, "I'm not sure about the others, but with these 4 nominations, it's enough." Although it was just a nomination, it was already very valuable for such a heavyweight award as the Global Chinese Original Songs Chart. It should be noted that the Golden Songs Chart was aimed at the Chinese pop music world all over the world, including musicians from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau. The competition for the nomination was bound to be fierce. 4 heavyweight nominations. Those were the 4 cornerstones of Lu Chun in the circle. It could be said to be very heavy, and there might be more than 4 nominations. Lu Chun said with a smile, "It's just a nomination. Maybe I won't even get an award in the end." Chen Feier said, "Modesty is a good virtue, but excessive modesty is hypocrisy. If you can't even get an award, then the Golden Melody chart doesn't live up to its name." She said it very seriously. She was not joking, but really thought so. Over the past year, Lu Chen's contribution and efforts in pop music were obvious to all. He stirred up the music world with his own strength and made the domestic original work shine again. It was impossible for the members of the Golden Melody chart to not see it, or pretend not to see it. Otherwise, how could the credibility of this music festival be guaranteed? Lu Chun said with a smile, "It would be good if you were a judge. By the way, how many nominations do you have? Not to mention other things, the Best Female Singer and Best Album. If Chen Feier and her Woman Flower, which had sold 5 million copies, were absolutely unscientific." Chen Feier said, "I'm sure I have less than you. We should be competitors for the Best Album." As long as the Golden Melody chart knew a little about marketing and publicity, the Golden Melody chart committee would definitely not let go of this gimmick that could be used for hype. Lu Chun said, "Bring it on." Chen Feier laughed. "I'm not afraid of you. Whoever loses will have to wash the dishes at home in the future." Lu Chun agreed resolutely. "Let's do it." The 2 of them laughed at the same time. Although they were thousands of kilometers apart, their hearts were still full of sweetness and warmth. Chen Feier said, "I miss you." Lu Chun comforted her. "Let's have a holiday during the new year. I'll take you to Bali for a few days." Chen Feier was happy. "Then I'll wait for the new year." She was overjoyed, like a little girl who had got her favorite toy. She was extremely happy. Time passed quietly as they spoke words of love. On November 12th, the 5th day after Lu Chun returned to Beijing, the Global Chinese Top Songs Chart Committee announced the list of nominees and judges on its official website at the same time, opening the prelude to the annual music festival. Chen Feier's source was very accurate. Lu Chun was nominated for a total of 4 heavyweight awards: Best Male Singer, Best Album, Best Lyrics, and Best Composition. In addition, he was nominated for Best Producer and Media Recommendation. As for Chen Feier herself, she was nominated for Best Female Singer, Best Album, Best Stage Performance, and Media Recommendation respectively. In the Best Album and Media Recommendation Awards, the 2 of them became competitors. Although such a situation was normal, it still showed people the intention of the organizing committee, especially on the nomination list. The two of them were next to each other, which was particularly eye-catching. The nomination list of the top songs chart quickly spread on the internet. Lu Chun Studio, Chun Feier Studio, and the official accounts of their fan support groups all forwarded it, immediately causing a sensation in their fan groups. Ah, my Chun and my Feier are going to PK. Everyone, who do you think will win? In my opinion, the best album should be jointly owned by two people to be perfect. Don't think about it. There's no double yoke in the top songs chart. Woman Flower and The Ordinary Road. Which album should I support? I support both albums. I'm happy who wins. Happy +1. It was just that the fans of both sides were complacent about the best album being in the bag, which made the fans of the other nominated albums feel dissatisfied. In blogs, forums, Tieba, and QQ groups, the flames of war were everywhere. As for who won and who lost, it would be revealed at the end of next month. Chapter 471. In the Borui Club in the capital. In the ring, Li Mushi, who was wearing a set of black kung fu, was launching a storm-like attack on her opponent. Front kick, whip kick, side kick, knee strike, straight punch, horizontal elbow. Her attacks were so intertwined that people couldn't even breathe. She was like a beautiful black female leopard who was going to tear her prey to pieces on this small stage. There were a lot of people around the ring. They were all coaches and employees of the club. Everyone was cheering for Li Mushi, which made her attacks more and more powerful. However, Li Mushi's opponent was not weak. On the contrary, he was stronger. In the face of the former's fierce attacks, he dealt with them with ease. He dodged sideways, raised his arms to block, and raised his legs to protect himself. Although he retreated step by step, his defense was impeccable, so that Li Mushi's strength was gradually exhausted in the repeated attacks. Bang! Li Mushi's side spin kick was once again blocked by Lu Chen's arm. When she jumped down, her left leg, which supported her body, obviously bent down. She staggered and almost fell on the ring. She was exhausted. Lu Chen took 2 steps back and did not take the opportunity to fight back. He looked at Li Mushi with a smile. Li Mushi's chest rose and fell violently a few times. She stared at Lu Chen with shame and annoyance. Finally, she was discouraged and said, "I don't want to fight with you. It's boring to fight with you. You are so soft and weak." Lu Chen smiled and said nothing. Li Mushi did not give up. "You are so busy now. You have to run to Hong Kong and the Mongolian prairie. How do you keep your kung fu?" Li Mushi was really not convinced. Since she lost to Lu Chen in the ring half a year ago, she specially hired a master in kickboxing and spent a lot of time practicing hard. She was confident that her strength had improved a bit. So this time when she knew that Lu Chen had returned to the capital, she dragged Lu Chen to the Borui Club to fight again. Unexpectedly, this time, Lu Chen completely relied on blocking and parrying, which made her lose confidence. Lu Chen thought about it and said, "I'm very talented." The martial arts that Lu Chen mastered came from Immerse memories, and he was very talented in this aspect. After more than a year of persistent training, it would not be a problem for him to reach Immerse's peak strength. Most importantly, Lu Chen liked the feeling of practicing martial arts very much. Practicing martial arts made him stronger and more energetic, and filled him with confidence and fighting spirit. Therefore, no matter how busy he was at work, Lu Chen would never forget to take time to maintain his condition. Li Mushi was improving, but he didn't regress. Instead, he became stronger. Li Mushi couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lu Chen's answer. She unwillingly licked her lips and hatefully said, "Don't be too proud." "I'll definitely beat you next time." She had flaming red lips, pearly white teeth, and a fragrant tongue. There was a hint of wild danger in her beauty. That kind of unique charm made Lu Chen's heart beat faster. He smiled and cupped his fist at Li Mushi. Anytime. Under the ring, Wan Yong, the coach of the Borui Club, secretly gave Lu Chen a thumbs up. Lu Chen blinked and smiled. After leaving the ring, they went to the locker room to take a shower and change their clothes. The two sat down in the lounge by the window. The club's waiter served coffee and tea. Immerse, who had dressed up again, seemed to be a different person. A light-colored office lady suit restored her usual elegance and beauty, without the slightest aggressive aura. But Luchan knew that she was just temporarily restraining her claws and teeth. Luchan, do you have any good suggestions for the future development of our company? Immerse took a sip of coffee, put down the cup, and asked, I invited you here this time to listen to your ideas. Now the company's expansion has encountered great resistance. Mukin Crowdfunding Network Company Limited was officially established in September last year. The crowdfunding website was launched in the same month, and it obtained a commercial creative copyright protection certificate, enjoying a 1-year legal protection. As the founder of the crowdfunding website, Luchan has sold his equity in the crowdfunding website twice, and finally retained only 10% of the non-dilutable founder's shares, and basically withdrew from the operation of the crowdfunding website. Over the past year, as a new online business model, under the management of Immerse, relying on the resources and contacts of the Lee family, the crowdfunding website has developed rapidly. The volume of business has risen steadily, and profits have been realized early. At present, there are hundreds of employees under Mukin Crowdfunding, and, at the same time, the number of online crowdfunding projects has exceeded 500 at most. The total amount of crowdfunding funds has reached an astonishing level. The profit model of the crowdfunding website is not complicated, and the website is quite simple. To be able to create such good results in a short period of time, commercial creativity is undoubtedly the key, and creativity is the easiest to imitate and learn. Many internet and financial tycoons have long been eyeing this attractive cake. Therefore, when the copyright protection of the crowdfunding website expired, more than a dozen similar websites were launched simultaneously in China, and the competition has become extremely fierce. In this way, Immerse was under a lot of pressure. It should be known that among her opponents, there were several giants with powerful strength, strong backgrounds, and abundant funds. Since they had their eyes on this piece, they would not be satisfied until they got a piece of meat. Although Immerse had expected such a situation, she did not expect the competitors to be so fierce. The market that originally belonged to her 100% was suddenly eroded by a lot. It would be a lie to say that she was not worried. Today, she pulled Luchan over and had a fight with Luchan first. In fact, she also took this opportunity to vent the negative emotions accumulated in her heart, and then sought guidance from Luchan. I know you must have a way. At present, of course, the market share of the crowdfunding website is still the first, and its market share has left the latecomers far behind. However, be prepared for danger in times of peace. Immerse has never thought of lying down and living on her old capital. She is also ready to put the crowdfunding website on the growth enterprise market. The crowdfunding website was founded by you. You don't want your painstaking efforts to be destroyed, do you? Don't forget, you are a shareholder of the crowdfunding website. Once it goes public, first with reason, then with emotion, and then with profit. In order to dig some information from Luchan, Immerse has put in a lot of effort. Luchan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly said, Okay, I know. I'll prepare the information for you in the next 2 days. Going back and looking through the memories in the dream world should provide a lot of useful information. Of course, whether the crowdfunding website can defeat many powerful competitors mainly depends on Immerse's own ability. Immerse was finally satisfied. That's more like it. She suddenly thought of something important. The team that you've trained in our club, are you going to put them to use? Luchan was stunned. Chapter 472. The Borui Club was an industry of the Li family in Beijing. Its original intention was to train and cultivate security talents. The club had a gym, a swimming pool, a fighting hall, an indoor shooting range, and so on. The facilities were complete and first class. Most of the coaches and staff in the club were retired from the army. In addition to meeting the needs of the Li family, the trained security guards also took on some tasks, so there were usually a lot of people staying in the club. Last year, Luchan was taken to the Borui Club by Immerse. The special environment and atmosphere here gave him an idea, and he put it into practice. That was, Liu Chan recruited a team from the Borui Club and trained them according to his own intentions. This team was not used as bodyguards for Liu Chan. He didn't have such a big show and didn't need it. It was used to shoot a martial arts action film. The martial arts action film that Liu Chan wanted to shoot came from the memory of the dream world. In the dream world, there had been countless wonderful and classic martial arts and action films at home and abroad, which were treasures that made people's blood boil. Liu Chen's big IP plan was closely related to these memories, but he wanted to reproduce the classics in the dream world. In reality, there were no other conditions, but it was difficult to find suitable martial arts action film actors. In Liu Chen's own world, martial arts films had appeared in both Xinjiang and China, but it was like a flash in the pan and did not cause much of a storm before disappearing. Now, what was popular were the mythical fantasy dramas with special effects flying everywhere. As for action films, the situation was better than martial arts films, but they also belonged to the ranks of niche films. In today's domestic and foreign film market, drama films adapted from popular novels, superhero films, and science fiction and magic films were the mainstream. The market share in this area was huge. A blockbuster could easily earn tens or even billions of yuan at the box office, so the competition was naturally extremely fierce. Basically, it was controlled by the giants in the industry. Therefore, if Liu Chan wanted to get share of the film market, and he had to control his own destiny, he could only find another way. He chose to start in Hong Kong because he had chosen a suitable opportunity, and the training of people with the help of the Borui Club was a plan in advance. There were a total of 12 members in this team. The usual training expenses and salary were all borne by Liu Chan himself. After a year of preparation, it was about time for them to show their usefulness. It was Liu Chen's Liu family squad. Liu Chan didn't expect Li Mushi to bring it up. He asked curiously, "How did you know? Don't treat me like an idiot." Li Mushi glared at Liu Chan and said, "Although I don't know much about it, I know it's not fun for you to spend so much money on this team. Now that you've gone to Hong Kong to shoot a movie, they must go there to help, right?" Liu Chan was impressed. "That's right. My first movie in Hong Kong is about to start. They are indispensable." Li Mushi nodded. "Actually, everyone has already guessed it. If you don't say anything, they will become restless. No one from the army is willing to eat for free. Since you've given them a chance, then treat them well and don't let them down. They will also repay your hard work and loyalty." Li Mushi said the last few words very seriously. Liu Chan also became serious. "Don't worry, I won't let the people who follow me down." Liu Chan was not just talking nonsense. Since he experienced that strange dream and set foot on the road to the entertainment industry, those who trusted him and followed him had never been disappointed. The Liu family squad was built by Liu Chan at a great cost and effort. He definitely attached more importance to it than Li Mushi. "That's good," Li Mushi said with a smile. "I believe your promise. In fact, there are many people who want to follow you. Wan Yong also wants to make a movie. He has asked me several times." Wan Yong was the coach in charge of fighting in the Borui Club. He was 35 years old and had been in the army for 10 years. He once won the championship of the military martial arts competition, so he was deeply valued by Li Mushi. In the Borui Club, Wan Yong was undoubtedly the backbone of the club. Li Mushi was willing to let him go, which inevitably surprised Liu Chan. "Are you willing to let him go?" Li Mushi said. "There is no reluctance. The main thing is that he has such an idea. When I asked him to come, I promised him that it would be up to him to leave or stay. Of course, I can't break my promise." Liu Chan pondered and said, "Well, I'll ask him again. It's naturally the best if he can help me." With Wan Yong's strength and prestige in the club, it was undoubtedly the best choice for him to be responsible for training and managing the Liu family squad, which could also save Liu Chan countless troubles. In addition, Wan Yong's skills and image were actually quite suitable for shooting martial arts films and action films. He could be the protagonist, but he was the villain. Thinking of this, Liu Chan couldn't help but smile. He just didn't know what Wan Yong's expression would be when he understood his thoughts. Happy or depressed? Li Mushi was suspicious. "Your smile is very evil. What bad things are you thinking about?" Lu Chen coughed, got up and said, "That's it. I'm going to find Brother Yong now." Li Mushi was unhappy. "What's the hurry? Let's have dinner together tonight." Lu Chen regretted. "I can't tonight. I have an appointment. How about I invite you to dinner tomorrow night?" Li Mushi raised her eyebrows. "With your sister?" Lu Chen was very sorry. "Oh, I remember that I have a dinner tomorrow night. I'll contact you another day." After that, Lu Chen quickly disappeared. This guy, looking at his figure leaving in a hurry, a faint smile appeared on Li Mushi's lips. In the fight club, Lu Chen found Wan Yong. When he told Wan Yong the reason for his visit, Wan Yong agreed without hesitation. Moreover, he seemed extremely happy. Lu Chen quickly said, "Don't be happy too early. I may need you to play the villain in my future movies. Are you willing?" In fact, it didn't matter if Wan Yong was not willing. He could find another special actor to train. It was just that Wan Yong was undoubtedly the most suitable candidate that Lu Chen could find now. In this regard, Wan Yong only hesitated for a few seconds and replied decisively, "No problem. I'll be the villain." Lu Chen couldn't help but be curious. "Brother Yong, why do you want to make a movie with me?" Ordinary people wanted to make movies for nothing more than to be famous, but Lu Chen felt that Wan Yong didn't seem like the kind of person who liked to be famous. Wan Yong was a little embarrassed, but he still explained, "I heard that making movies is very profitable. I want to make more money." Wan Yong's salary in the Borui Club was not low, but he had already settled in Beijing. His biggest wish was to buy a big house in Beijing so that his family could live comfortably. However, everyone knew the housing prices in Beijing. Although Li Mushi valued Wan Yong very much, there was no reason to give him a house worth millions of yuan for free. Therefore, after knowing that Lu Chen was training a team to make movies, he had an idea. Lu Chen understood and said with a smile, "I see. Then believe me, it won't take many years for you to buy a house you like in Beijing." This was the promise that Lu Chen gave him. Chapter 473. The dinner party in the evening was invited by Sister Li at the Regent Hotel in Beijing. She booked a small box, and the people she invited were Lu Chen and Lu Shi, while she brought her son Zhang Juanji. Compared with the last time they met, Zhang Juanji is obviously more mature and sensible. The entertainment industry is a very realistic place, and it is also very good for sharpening people. Although his debut time is very short, the young man has already shown the temperament of a star. As the captain of the Little Tiger Group, Zhang Juanji is now one of the most popular new artists in the circle. He and his other two partners made their debut in Singing China, and they won countless attention as soon as they appeared. The number of fans in the Waves blog has been rising, and he has become an idol in the hearts of many boys and girls. Most importantly, Zhang Juanji did not become famous overnight. When he played the role of young Yin Juanxi in Autumn in My Heart, he accumulated a lot of popularity, and with the help of the Little Tiger Group, he completed a gorgeous turn. A song, Butterflies Fly, tailor-made by Lu Chen for the Little Tiger Group, has now gained a high degree of popularity, especially in primary and secondary schools all over the country, and has become a daily radio track. The Bionics, MSN, and today's Little Tiger Group, Lu Chen really seems to have a magic that makes people succeed easily, so the nickname Golden Hand circulated in the circle will spread to Hong Kong. Seeing Lu Chen, Zhang Juanji seemed very happy. He called him teacher and served tea and water, respectful and polite. Lu Chen said with a smile, "You don't have to be so polite. It must be hard to participate in the talent competition, right?" Shortly after the end of Beijing Television's 2016 Singing China, the Little Tiger Group stood out in the highly anticipated live singing talent competition and won the third place. Although they lost to two powerful opponents in the final, the performance of the three teenagers was remarkable, and they could be said to be glorious in defeat. Lu Chen also watched the live broadcast at that time. Zhang Juanji sat down and said, "Fortunately, it's not very hard. Mama's been with me all the time. She works the hardest." Lu Shi said, "Then you must be filial to your mother in the future." Zhang Juanji nodded. "I will, Sister Lu Shi." Sister Li looked at her handsome and obedient son, her eyes filled with pride and love. What she was most proud of was not the many years she had spent in the industry to establish her own business, nor the wealth and status she had today, but the fact that she had raised Zhang Juanji. For her son, Sister Li was undoubtedly willing to give up everything. This time, Sister Li invited Lu Chun and Lu Shi over. The first thing they talked about was the affairs of Chun Fei Charity Foundation. The Chun Fei Charity Foundation was established this year by Lu Chun and Chun Feier. The purpose of the foundation was to protect leukemia patients from poor families so that they could receive help and treatment. Since the foundation was launched more than half a year ago, hundreds of leukemia patients have been rescued, and Lu Chun and Chun Feier had won widespread social reputation. Up until now, the foundation was operating well, and the funds were all under effective supervision. As the chairman of the foundation, Sister Li's contributions could not go unnoticed. I've decided to sell the majority of my shares in the agency, Sister Li said. In the future, focus on managing the foundation and Juanji's affairs. I don't want to care about anything else. Lu Chun and Lu Shi were suddenly shocked. The Rainbow Agency, founded by Sister Li, was a veteran agency in the capital. There had been many popular stars under it. Although its status in the industry was not comparable to the top big shots, it could still be ranked among the top. This agency was also the culmination of her life's efforts. It had been maintained conscientiously for 20 years. It had a good relationship and credibility. Even competitors admired it. Now that Sister Li actually said that she wanted to sell the Rainbow Agency, how could Lu Chun and Lu Shi not be surprised? Lu Chun quickly said, Sister Li, actually, Sister Li interrupted him with a smile. You don't have to persuade me. In fact, I've been very tired these years. I've long wanted to let go and enjoy life. Now, being in charge of the charity foundation is the most suitable for me. I don't have to work so hard and I won't be idle and bored. Also, doing good deeds gives me a sense of accomplishment. As for money, I've already earned enough. No matter how much I have, it's just a number. Besides, I have Juanji. Lu Chun and Lu Shi looked at each other. Both of them could see that this time, Sister Li had really made up her mind. It was the result of careful consideration. Lu Chun said sincerely, It's my luck to know Sister Li. Sister Li smiled embarrassedly. What are you talking about? It's my luck to know you and Fei. Lu Shi smiled and said, We're all very lucky. Then let's have a toast. Cheers. Everyone raised their glasses together. The small private room was filled with a warm and beautiful atmosphere. Tap, tap. At this time, someone knocked on the door of the private room. The next moment, the hotel waiter opened the door and a middle-aged man walked in. His gaze quickly swept around the private room. His gaze first stopped on Lu Chun, then he nodded and fixed on Sister Li. A warm smile appeared on his face. I heard from my friend that you're also having dinner here tonight. So, I came over to take a look. I'm not disturbing you, am I? This middle-aged man was tall and slender. He had an elegant demeanor and was undoubtedly a very handsome man when he was young. Now that time had left its mark on his face, he didn't look old at all. Instead, he had a mature temperament. He spoke well and was very confident. A man like this would definitely be very popular with women. He would always be successful in the field of love. However, when he saw this person, Zhang Juanji's face immediately darkened. He turned his head and picked up some food with his chopsticks, stuffed it into his mouth, and chewed fiercely. Sister Li was very surprised. She immediately stood up and said with a smile, It's not a disturbance. Speaking of which, it's been a long time. She tugged at her son. Juanji, you can't be so rude. Zhang Juanji reluctantly put down his chopsticks and stood up. Reluctantly, he greeted Dad. As he said that, his eyes drifted to the corner. This middle-aged man was Sister Li's ex-husband and Zhang Juanji's biological father, Zhang Xiaoqiu. Zhang Xiaoqiu took 2 steps forward and said with a smile, Juanji has grown up. I've watched the competition of Singing China. Your performance is so good. I think the champion should belong to you. He tried very hard to praise his son, but all he got was indifference and disregard. This made Zhang Xiaoqiu a little embarrassed and had to change the subject. This is teacher Lu Chun, right? Lu Chun said with a smile. "Hello, Mr. Zhang." Lu Chun didn't expect that he would see Chun Shimi, who is famous in the circle, here today. Chapter 474. Sister Li's real name was Li Zhenjin, a rather rustic name, and she was indeed from the countryside. Sister Li was born in poverty. When she was a teenager, she came to Beijing from the countryside to make a living after graduating from junior high school. Like most Beijing drifters, she worked as a waitress in a restaurant, swept the streets, sold insurance, and distributed flyers. However, she was smarter and had a higher EQ than most Beijing drifters. She seized the opportunity to squeeze into the entertainment industry, starting from a small assistant, and finally successfully established the famous Rainbow Agency in the industry. Sister Li's life story could be adapted into an inspirational TV series. However, she was most often mentioned by people in the industry, her marriage that lasted for 5 years. Sister Li's ex-husband, Zhang Xiaoqiu, was a small artist who had debuted for several years, but never became popular. Although he was very handsome, his luck had always been very poor. He had acted in a few films, but all of them were small roles. He had also released albums, but they were a mess of losses. He never got the appreciation of Bull. At a cocktail party, Zhang Xiaoqiu met Li Zhenjin, who was working hard to develop her career, so he enthusiastically pursued Sister Li. At that time, people in the industry, including Li Zhenjin's friends, didn't think Zhang Xiaoqiu had an ulterior motive. They thought that the two of them had a big difference in appearance, and Zhang Xiaoqiu was younger than Sister Li. However, Sister Li accepted Zhang Xiaoqiu's pursuit. After half a year, the two of them got married, and the following year, Zhang Juanji was born. While managing her agency, Sister Li did her best to support her husband's career. Zhang Xiaoqiu's path to stardom changed. He stood out in a TV series and became a hot star. After becoming famous, Zhang Xiaoqiu changed. He was not at home for many years, and there were many rumors about him. The marriage between the two lasted for a few years, and Zhang Xiaoqiu, who felt that he had grown up, asked for a divorce. Sister Li readily agreed. Her only condition was the custody of her son. Later, when people talked about this matter, they all felt that it was unfair for Sister Li, saying that Zhang Xiaoqiu was an ingrate. However, Sister Li never said anything bad about her ex-husband on any occasion. Instead, she said a lot of good things about him. She thought that it was enough to have a very good memory of her life. Such tolerance and open-mindedness won Sister Li the respect of many people, but also made everyone despise Zhang Xiaoqiu even more. After the divorce, Zhang Xiaoqiu quickly married a young wife who used to be a model. A few years later, they divorced again. In the beginning, his career was very smooth. He received a lot of publicity and endorsements, and he made a lot of money. However, good times didn't last long. With the changes in the market, Zhang Xiaoqiu gradually became outdated. Especially in recent years, he had fallen to a D or D-list position. He still had some fame, but he could not compete with the currently popular Little Fresh Meats. His acting and singing skills could not compete with many rivals, so his position in the industry was awkward. Most importantly, even if Sister Li was very tolerant and never used her connections in the industry to suppress him, there were still many people who didn't like him. Never forget a friend from the poor, and never give a wife from the poor. This was a virtue that the Chinese had abided by for thousands of years. Even if it was out of time for the current entertainment industry, not many people would like an ungrateful person like Zhang Xiaoqiu. Lu Chen didn't like it either. He put on a fake smile. Hello, hello. Zhang Xiaoqiu was very thick-skinned. He smiled and extended his hand to Lu Chen. Nice to meet you. Lu Chen shook his hand lightly. Sister Li frowned and asked, "What else do you want?" Zhang Xiaoqiu was stunned. In his memory, his ex-wife was very obedient and gentle to him. Even after the divorce, she still took care of his face. Whenever they met again, she would be amiable and never fell out with him. Now, Sister Li was obviously dissatisfied with him, which made him feel very uncomfortable. After all, Zhang Xiaoqiu was not an ordinary person. He quickly suppressed the surprise in his heart and said with a smile, "It's nothing special. I just happened to run into you and Juanji." Listening to him, Sister Li's face softened a lot, as if she was recalling the good times of the past. She looked at Zhang Xiaoqiu and asked softly, "Xiaoqiu, today, Lu Chun and Lu Shi are here. In front of our son, I'm not afraid of being embarrassed. I just want to ask you, during the years when we were husband and wife, did you ever love me?" Zhang Xiaoqiu's face froze. He hesitated for a moment, but still nodded and said yes. Slap. A resounding slap landed on his face, causing him to be stunned. Sister Li withdrew her hand and said, "Liar. You." Zhang Xiaoqiu's face turned red. The great sense of humiliation made the veins on his forehead bulge. He impulsively raised his hand to fight back. However, a strong hand locked his wrist like an iron clamp, making him unable to move. It was Lu Chun who had hit him. Lu Chun said coldly, "Mr. Zhang, you are not welcome here." He swung his hand, and Zhang Xiaoqiu couldn't help but take 2 steps back, almost hitting the door. At this time, Zhang Xiaoqiu finally calmed down a little. He realized that he would be humiliated if he continued to stay, so he turned around and left in a very embarrassed manner. Sister Li let out a long sigh of relief and said to Lu Shi with a wry smile, "I'm sorry for making you laugh." Lu Shi shook her head and said, "Well done." She wasn't a fool. How could she not see that Zhang Xiaoqiu's visit was strange? Most likely, he had an ulterior motive. Moreover, this guy looked refined, but his words and actions always revealed a sense of performance. In other words, he was a hypocrite. There was no doubt that Sister Li had already seen through his true colors. Maybe she had been blinded by love, but now she had woken up. Kindness was not cowardice, and tolerance was not forbearance. This slap was good. As a woman, Lu Shi understood and supported Sister Li. Sister Li said to her son apologetically, "Juanji, I shouldn't have." Zhang Juanji directly interrupted her. "Mom, I think Sister Lu Shi is right." Sister Li nodded, opened her arms, and gently held her son in her arms. Her eyes were filled with tears. On November 18th, Lu Chun led the newly formed team, a total of 15 people, to Xiangjiang. On the same day, the Proud Wanderer was released in Xinhua Publishing House in the capital. 1,000 hardcover editions and 2,000 paperback editions were all sold out on the first day. The printing plant of Shanghai Publishing House worked at full speed. The finished products were supplied to the local market in the capital, and they were continuously sent to all over the country. From the internet to the real world, the Proud Wanderer entered a larger and more suitable world. It was like a greenhorn swordsman who came to the real world. The sword rose waves. Chapter 475. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon of November 18th, Lu Chun and his team arrived at Hong Kong International Airport. Just like the first time he came to Hong Kong, Lu Chun was very low-key. He didn't explain his schedule on his blog, and only a few people in the studio knew his whereabouts. However, what Lu Chun didn't expect was that as soon as he walked out of the passenger passage, more than a dozen reporters holding cameras and microphones suddenly rushed out of the crowd outside and surrounded him in an instant. "Mr. Lu Chun, can I interview you?" "Lu Chun, what's your relationship with Lu Gangsheng, Lu Tianwang?" "Mr. Lu Chun, what do you think of Chun Yuanshan's evaluation of your music work?" "Mr. Lu Chun, some people say that you came to Hong Kong to make a movie to steal the opportunity of the same industry in Hong Kong. What's your opinion on this?" The flashlights flashed frequently, and the microphones tied with different media logos rushed to be in front of him. The surrounding passengers all cast curious or surprised gazes. There were also questions that came at him like a storm. Lu Chun was a little confused for a moment. What was going on? When could he enjoy the treatment of a popular star in Hong Kong? This was a little unscientific. However, Lu Chun was not an ordinary person after all. In the face of a sudden, unexpected situation, he could still maintain his calm. He quietly reached out to block the microphones that were about to touch his face and said, "Please make way. This is a public passage. Thank you." And behind Lu Chun, there was a whole team of people. This team of people was brought back from the capital by Lu Chun. They were 10 men and 2 women, all very young, all of whom had just been discharged from the army. They were at the age of young and vigorous, and had received professional training. So when they saw that Lu Chun was surrounded, they quickly stepped forward and blocked the paparazzi at the first possible moment, creating a safe isolation zone for Lu Chun, allowing him to quickly escape from the awkward situation. The paparazzi did not expect Lu Chun to have so many guards around him. How could they be a match for these elites? The pressure that they had formed to force Lu Chun to abdicate collapsed in an instant, and a reporter fell to the ground in a sorry state. The airport security personnel arrived at the scene in time and stopped the paparazzi who were trying to pester her. Therefore, Lu Chun successfully escaped and sat in the commercial car waiting outside. There were many people returning to Hong Kong this time, so the studio arranged to hire a medium-sized bus. The person in charge of picking them up was Lu Chun's assistant in Hong Kong, Li Jun. Li Jun saw the chaotic scene just now. She said embarrassedly, "Young Master Lu, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect there to be so many paparazzi." Lu Chun waved his hand to indicate that he didn't mind. What he was puzzled about was why these paparazzi wanted to surround him. Also, what you want? Snatching the opportunity of the same industry in Hong Kong? It was simply inexplicable. Li Jun could explain these. It turned out that the source of the disturbance was the Cantonese song, "The Love of My Life," that he sang in Lan Kwai Fong last time. After this song was posted on the internet, it quickly became popular in Hong Kong and was liked by many young people in Hong Kong. There were even many local singers who imitated and sang it. Even the corresponding song appeared in KYV. Nowadays, Hong Kong's pop music scene was no longer as prosperous as it was in the 1980s and 1990s. Especially in recent years, there were fewer and fewer original Cantonese songs. The market was filled with a large number of cover songs and imitations of songs from Europe, America, Japan, and South Korea. The mentality of young singers was becoming more and more impetuous, and people who concentrated on making music were becoming rare. This phenomenon had many similarities with the mainland pop music scene. However, compared to the abundance of domestic talents, Hong Kong's original musicians had withered even more, and there were only a few rising stars. The market environment was bad, and the fans who really loved Cantonese songs were naturally very dissatisfied. On Hong Kong's music forums and blogs, nostalgic songs and criticism of the phenomenon were everywhere. So now that they suddenly heard such an outstanding work that could be called a classic, many fans and even people in the circle were surprised. It was completely reasonable for it to become popular quickly. But for Hong Kong's local musicians, it was a little embarrassing, because Lu Chun, who wrote and sang this song, not only came from the mainland, but he was also not from Guangdong. Moreover, there were two people who made Lu Chun hate. One of them was the famous comment ID 3 bowls of wine in the pop music and film and TV talk section of Hong Kong's BBS. In the original video post of The Love of My Life, he ridiculed Hong Kong's local musicians and inevitably touched the fragile hearts of some Hong Kong people. The other was the famous Hong Kong blogger Madman of the South Sea. His blog post about The Love of My Life really pushed Lu Chun to the forefront of the storm. Lu Chun knew about this matter and specially wrote a blog post to respond to it. As a result, he won Lu Tianwang's praise. He thought the situation would calm down and return to the capital a few days later. However, the development of things was far beyond his expectations. The war caused by Madman of the South Sea did not completely extinguish. Instead, it spread more and more. Many people in the pop music scene were involved, and it became very popular on the internet. A few days ago, the famous columnist and music and film critic Chen Yuanchen published an article in the column of Harbor City Daily. He thought that Hong Kong's musicians did not need to belittle themselves. A Cantonese work by Lu Chun could not prove anything. The Love of My Life was also not a classic that deserved to be bragged about. Moreover, there were suspicions of deliberate hype and the existence of the internet. Harbor City Daily was one of the Chinese newspapers with the largest circulation in Hong Kong. Chen Yuanchen's article caused a lot of response and also added firewood to the debate on the internet. At this time, Lu Chun, who was not famous in Hong Kong, was really popular, and his past experience was quickly dug out by people, including the matter that he came to Hong Kong to shoot a movie. This inevitably touched the hearts of people in another circle. So there were rumors that people from the mainland used the support policy of the Hong Kong government to rob the opportunities of the local people and called for the modification of the policy. Because of the preparation for a Chinese ghost story, the work in Hong Kong studio was very busy, and Li Jun was no exception, so the information she knew was limited. That was all she knew. She said apologetically, "Young Master Liu, I'm really sorry. I should have reported these things to you earlier." Liu Chun finally understood the cause and effect. He couldn't help laughing. You don't want to farm just because you hear Lala's cry? We do our own things and don't need to pay too much attention to these things. His foundation was in China, and Hong Kong was just a platform for him to enter the film industry. It would be too stupid to get involved in gossip disputes, which involved energy and wasted time. And how could a sparrow know the ambition of a swan? Chapter 476. Compared to Liu Chen's indifference, Li Jun was a lot more nervous. During the period when Liu Chun left Hong Kong and returned to Beijing, under the leadership of Chen Wenxiang, the studio cooperated with Jiayang Pictures to prepare for the shooting of a Chinese ghost story with Qinyang Pictures. Everyone was so busy, and she was no exception. Because of this, when there was a storm against Liu Chun on the internet, Li Jun did not send the news back to Beijing immediately. It was also because of her negligence. She thought that this matter would be over soon. This was the norm in Hong Kong's entertainment circle. Unless someone pushed it hard, the media's focus would change very quickly. There were so many gossip news every day. Now that she thought about it, it was a serious matter, so she had to remind Liu Chun this Chun Yuan-chun is not an ordinary person. He didn't even give face to Liu Tianwang. He wrote an article to scold people. Liu Chun said with a smile, "If he is strong, let him be strong." Li Jun was a little confused. Although she didn't quite understand, it sounded very powerful. Liu Chun smiled and said, "It's nothing. Let's talk about it when we get back." A Chinese ghost story was about to start shooting. There were a lot of things to be done. Liu Chun didn't have the time and energy to quarrel with others. No matter how sharp Chen Yuan-chin was, what could he do if he ignored him? Those paparazzi and entertainment media must be eager to see the world in chaos. They couldn't wait for Liu Chun and Chen Yuan-chin to fight. Liu Chun was not a fool. How could he fall for such a trap? After returning to Hong Kong studio, Liu Chun didn't see Chen Wenxiang and Wan Shaoquan until evening. "You've worked hard." Liu Chun had always been polite to the two important members who had worked hard and made great contributions. Chen Wenxiang shook his head and said, "It's my duty." Although his words were modest, there was still a hint of pride in his eyes. Of course, Chen Wenxiang had a reason to be proud. With his full support and the close cooperation between the studio and Jiayang Pictures, the production team of Chinese Ghost Story was basically completed. The funds, staff, and venue were all in place, and they could start filming at any time. In this process, Chen Wenxiang could be said to have done all he could, running around cautiously. In particular, he did a lot of work and used a lot of connections to coordinate with the Lion Rock Film City. As the director of a film studio, Chen Wenxiang's efforts were impeccable. When Liu Chun was in Beijing, he kept in touch with Chen Wenxiang, so he knew the situation like the back of his hand. Wan Shaoquan agreed. "Old Chen really had it hard. I learned a lot from following him around. He came to Hong Kong more or less to be banished, which was the result of his helpless choice. However, ever since he came into contact with the local circle of Xiangjiang, Wan Shaoquan realized that it was not a bad choice to come here. The movie market here was promising, and it was suitable for him to display his abilities again. Chen Wenxiang laughed and said, "Director Wan is joking with me again. This is all I can do. It's still up to you to film." The two had been partners for a period of time, and their relationship was quite good. Seeing such a scene, Liu Chun was completely relieved. In the evening, Liu Chun acted as the host and booked a big box in a nearby restaurant. He invited the new members of the studio who had just arrived in Hong Kong and the original team to a banquet, which could be regarded as a meeting between the new and the old. During the banquet, Lu Chun introduced Wan Yong and the others to Chen Wenxiang and Wan Xiaoquan. They're a martial arts stunt team signed by our studio. To the public, they are called the Lu Family Squad. Lu Chun explained in this way, simply using the banner of Lu Family Squad. In the Xiangjiang film and television industry, there were many martial arts masters who worked part-time as stunt actors. They had good basic skills and were also very hardworking. They often acted as stunt doubles for star actors to complete some dangerous actions and fight scenes. Low income and obscurity were the norm for these people. Chen Wenxiang was inevitably surprised that Lu Chun did not recruit in Hong Kong, but recruited such a young team from the capital because the cost of such an approach was undoubtedly high. The price of hiring a stunt martial artist was not expensive. At least it was much cheaper and less troublesome than raising a group of people. Of course, Chen Wenxiang would not choose to spoil the mood at this time. He was polite to Wan Yong and the others. However, Chen Wenxiang's disapproval was still felt by Lu Chun. He could more or less guess Chen Wenxiang's thoughts, but now is not the time to explain. Lu Chun said, "Uncle Chang, I'll have to trouble you to handle their work visas and residence permits tomorrow." Mainlanders who wanted to work and live in the three major special zones of Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau needed to apply for the corresponding documents. Otherwise, there would be great trouble in life. Chen Wenxiang patted his chest and said, "No problem, leave it to me." Lu Chun was very relieved that he could handle it. He picked up his glass and made a toast to express his gratitude. After 3 rounds of drinking, everyone began to talk. Chen Wenxiang told Lu Chun a lot of recent things in the circle, and they talked about the controversy caused by Lu Chun on the internet. There was also Chen Yuanchen. Chen Yuanchen is one of the representatives of Hong Kong. Chen Wenxiang said, "The characteristic of Hong Kong members is that they must put the interests of Hong Kong people first in everything and reject foreign competition and immigrants." It is said that he intends to run for parliament next year. I suspect that it is very likely that he is using you as a target in this matter. The rumors on the internet are probably deliberately released by someone, so you can't take it lightly. Don't underestimate their incitement. Previously, Li Zhen told Lu Chun that Chen Yuanchen was very sharp, but Lu Chun did not pay much attention to it. Now that Chen Wenxiang revealed the deep inside story to him, he had to pay attention to it. In many cases, even if you don't look for trouble, trouble will come to you. Ignoring and avoiding it is not a solution. Lu Chun thought for a moment and said, "Then find a chance to clarify it. I was almost blocked by reporters at the airport in the afternoon." He was still very puzzled. How did these reporters know his flight number? Chen Wenxiang said with a smile, "These paparazzi have very good noses, and they have insiders in all the major airlines. They will know in advance when stars enter and leave the port. In the future, you'd better take the VIP passage." Lu Chun said that he had learned his lesson. This trick was very sophisticated. Chen Wenxiang continued, "If you want to clarify the truth, then don't look for these paparazzi. They specialize in writing nonsense. It's better to be on TV programs." He said to Li Zhen, "Zhen, pay attention to which TV stations will send invitations these days." Li Zhen nodded. Okay. As a result, Chen Wenxiang was right. On the second day after Lu Chun returned to Hong Kong, 3 TV stations sent invitations. Chapter 477. Xiangjiang's land area was more than 1,000 square kilometers, with a population of more than 10 million, and its population density was among the highest in the world. This international metropolis was once known as the Hollywood of the East, and its entertainment industry was extremely developed. Although there were signs of decline since the beginning of a new century, it was still one of the important industries of Xiangjiang. As the most important part of the entertainment media, Xiangjiang had a considerable number of television stations, mainly including 2 major wireless stations and more than a dozen small and medium-sized cable stations. Among them, Xiangjiang Satellite Television, Xiangjiang Satellite TV, and Asia Television, ATV, were the two hegemons in the industry, jointly occupying more than 70% of the market share. Pearl TV, Hong Kong Cable TV, Kowloon TV, and other cable TV stations divided up the remaining 30%. The competition between them was very fierce, creating the prosperity of Xinjiang's television media. The invitations to Luchun Studio were from ATV, Pearl TV, and Hong Kong Cable TV. Without any consideration, Luchun accepted ATV's program invitation. Asia Television was the first television station in Xinjiang, and also the first Chinese television station in the world. It had a long history and a glorious past. Although its current strength and scale were slightly inferior to the rising star Xinjiang Satellite TV, ATV's background was still very strong and had a great influence in Xinjiang and even in Southeast Asia. ATV had 12 channels, and the program that invited Luchun was the variety channel's entertainment Three People Talk. This program had been on the air for more than 10 years. It was hosted by ATV's famous host, Shun Shuling. Every episode would invite a star in the entertainment industry and a special guest to interview the current entertainment hot topics. Its average ratings had always been in the top 3 among similar programs. The reason why Entertainment Three People Talk invited Luchun was undoubtedly because of the dispute he had caused on Hong Kong's internet. It was about Xinjiang's pop music and Xinjiang's movies. Luchun still attached great importance to ATV's program invitation. After getting the program script, he took some time to study it and also looked through a lot of previous videos of Entertainment Three People Talk. Assistant Li Zhen was very active in advising Luchun and even recommended a famous stylist to him. Her excitement was not without reason. Luchun had only been in Xinjiang for a few days, but his name had already spread in Xinjiang's entertainment industry and even caused quite a stir. A song stirred up the entertainment industry and attracted the attention of ATV. As Luchun's assistant, Li Zhen felt honored. This was the famous ATV. Moreover, Li Zhen was a fan of ATV host Shen Shuling. Of course, she fervently hoped that Luchun would have a wonderful and outstanding performance on Three People in Entertainment. The program Three People in Entertainment was recorded in advance, so after receiving the program invitation, the studio communicated with ATV, and the official recording time was set for the afternoon of the 21st. On the same day, Luchun arrived at ATV's headquarters on time with his 2 assistants. The headquarters of ATV is also located in the Westport Business Center of Xiangpan. It is only a few hundred meters away from the Rongjin building, where Luchun Studio is located, but the former is a building that has been built for 30 years. This 39-story light gray building was not eye-catching among the various modern and luxurious high-rise buildings around it. Even the structure and appearance looked outdated, but the words Asia Television and the logo inlaid on the outer wall shone brightly under the sunlight, proudly displaying its glory. Once upon a time, countless artists in Xinjiang were proud to walk into this building. At the entrance of the ATV building, Luchun first saw Shun Shuling's assistant who came to greet them. After completing the registration, the group took the elevator to the 27th floor, the studio of the ATV variety channel. Shun Shuling and another guest were already waiting there. Shun Shuling was in her 40s, but because she took good care of herself, she looked like a person in her 30s. Her appearance was not very beautiful, but she was dignified, generous, and graceful. Especially when she smiled, it gave people a feeling of being bathed in the spring breeze, giving people a good impression. "Hello, Luchun. Welcome to ATV." She smiled and shook hands with Luchun and said half-jokingly, "I'm your fan." A simple sentence instantly narrowed the distance between the two of them. Luchun smiled and said, "Then I'll give you a limited edition solo album. I only ask Sister Shan to take care of me in the program." Although Shan Shuling looked very amiable, her hosting style was quite sharp. Even in the face of a big star, she dared to ask sensitive questions. In fact, most of the hosts in Xinjiang were like this. Because Xinjiang's TV stations were all private, in order to pursue the effect of the program, the requirements for the host were naturally very high. When the audience watched variety shows, they liked content with gimmicks, conflicts, and strong topics. If the host did not have unique characteristics, it would be easy to be abandoned. The most important thing was that Xiangjiang's policies and regulations were different from those in the mainland, so the standards for TV programs were different. Lu Chen had previously watched a lot of previous videos of 3 people in entertainment talk. Of course, he had some understanding of Shen Shuling's hosting personality, so although it was a joke, it was also serious. Shen Shuling was stunned at first, then smiled and said, "Okay, I will definitely take care of you." She introduced another guest to Lu Chen. 3 people in entertainment talk was, of course, a conversation between 3 people. As the first guest, Lu Chen was definitely the protagonist, but the existence of this guest was not dispensable. His views were undoubtedly an important part of the program. This guest was called Zhuang Dong. He was a writer, a critic, a reporter, and so on. He was a celebrity in the literary and entertainment circles. He had published many books and had more than 500,000 fans on Hong Kong blogs. Zhuang Dong was thin and a little tanned. He was wearing a suit and glasses. After the introduction, he shook hands with Lu Chen and said, "Hello, nice to meet you." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Hello, Mr. Zhuang." Zhuang Dong's eyes were quite sharp. He stared at Lu Chen and asked, "Mr. Lu, I want to ask, what is the main purpose of your development in Xianjiang? Or what is your goal?" Lu Chen was stunned. The program had not even started recording, and this person had already started to ask aggressive questions. He looked quite unfriendly. He thought for a moment and replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "I came to Xianjiang to make friends." This answer was undoubtedly completely out of Zhuang Dong's expectation. Maybe he wanted to catch Lu Chen off guard, but he was dumbfounded by Lu Chen's response. Shen Shuling, who was standing on the side, had a flash of smile in her eyes. She tried to smooth things over and said, "You too, if you have anything to say, let's talk on the program." She had a feeling that today's episode of 3 People in Entertainment Talk would be quite interesting. At least the guest was not wrong. Chapter 478. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening, when all the houses in Hong Kong were brightly lit. Kong nimbly jumped out of the minibus that had just stopped at the platform, rushed forward a few steps, jumped to the sidewalk, and then walked quickly to his home. Kong had just graduated from college this year. At present, he was working in a trading company, doing the import and export of digital equipment. He did not go to a famous university and had no energy for work, so now he was mainly learning to be an assistant. The work was very hard. He had to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning and go home at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. The salary was very low, and he had to do all kinds of chores. It was very undignified to be ordered around by the boss. But Kong was a very optimistic boy. He worked very hard and studied very hard. He looked forward to the day when he could open a small company and buy a big house for his family. His dream was a villa. Kang's home was in Wai Shatin. A 50-square-meter house accommodated 3 generations of 6 people. The so-called HOS referred to the low-cost housing built by the Hong Kong government in the 1970s under the Home Ownership Plan, which was equivalent to the affordable housing in the mainland. The price was 30% to 40% lower than that of similar commercial housing. It was mainly sold to public housing tenants and qualified low- and middle-income residents. This 50-square-meter HOS was bought by Kang's grandparents with their life savings. After returning home, Kong opened the door with the key. His mother, who was cleaning in the kitchen, heard the noise and poked her head out. She asked, "Kong, have you had dinner?" Kong nodded and said, "Yes, I have. I'm in my room." His mother looked at his back as he hurried into the room and shook her head. Although the house was very small, in order to meet the living needs of the family, it was still divided into 3 rooms, one for his grandparents, one for his parents, and one for him and his sister. There was no other way. Although Kong was already an adult and his sister was in high school, This HOS was very good compared with many families who lived in public housing or even cage houses. In the future, when his sister got married, he could marry a wife and live with her. Dreams were beautiful, but the real life had to go on. His sister was sitting at the desk copying homework. Akong did not disturb her. He sat on his bed and turned on the small LCD TV hanging on the wall. Akong bought the TV with his first salary so that he wouldn't have to fight with his family over the TV. He liked movies and TV dramas. He also liked pop music and surfing the internet. Now that the computer was occupied by his sister, Akong had no other choice but to watch TV. Most importantly, there were programs that he wanted to watch at night. Beep. Just as he turned on the TV with the remote control, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang twice. Akong took out his phone and looked at it. It was a message from Xiaowei, asking if he had arrived home. Akong quickly replied, "I'm home. I just turned on the TV." Xiaowei replied very quickly. ATV Variety Channel, 8:30 p.m. Entertainment, 3 People Talk. Akong couldn't help but smile. His fingers moved quickly. Understood. Xiaowei was a girl he was pursuing. She was a clerk in another company. Although she was not very beautiful, she could be considered delicate and charming. She had no lack of pursuers. Akong knew that his family was ordinary and his conditions were ordinary. He didn't really expect to win her favor. However, by chance, Akong discovered a little secret of Xiaowei, and then the two unexpectedly started dating. Although it was far from the level of boyfriend and girlfriend, it was enough to become a happy thing in Akong's life. Xiaowei liked music and singing very much. She often went to Lan Kuai-Fong Bar with her friends to listen to songs. Her common ID on the internet was Viviani. Isn't it a nice name? Xiaowei recently fell in love with a young artist from the mainland, and tonight, the artist would appear on the ATV Variety Channel's Entertainment 3 People Talk program. Not only did she want to watch it herself, but she also wanted her friends to watch it together. Akong was no exception. He exchanged text messages with Xiaowei. The long advertisement before the start of the program had no effect on Akong. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. Entertainment 3 People Talk started on time at 8:30 p.m. First, the familiar opening music and the familiar program logo were played. The camera quickly turned to the host. Akong was no stranger to the ATV Variety Channel's Entertainment 3 People Talk, especially the host, Shun Shuling. When he was still in primary school, she was already active on the screen and looked very kind. "Welcome to Entertainment 3 People Talk." The dignified and beautiful Shun Shuling smiled at the camera, and the two guests sat on her left and right. "Who is this? He's so handsome." Akong couldn't help but turn his head at the sudden sound. He saw his sister standing beside him, staring at the TV screen with glowing eyes. Akong knew who she was asking about and explained, "Lu Chun, an artist from the mainland. He sings very well. Have you heard the song, 'The Love of My Life?'" He looked at Lu Chun on the screen. Although he was a little unhappy, he had to admit that Lu Chun was really handsome. There were many handsome young artists in Hong Kong, but this artist from the mainland had a special temperament. Akong couldn't tell, but he felt that he was different from other stars. "Is this song sung by him?" His sister suddenly understood and sat beside him to watch the program together. High school was very busy. If she wanted to go to a good university, she had to work hard. Akong's sister usually didn't have much time to play or watch TV or surf the internet, because her goal was to surpass her brother. But she had also heard the song, "The Love of My Life." First of all, let's welcome Lu Chun. He comes from the mainland and is currently shooting a movie in Hong Kong. He is also shooting a movie? His sister's surprise made Akong even more unhappy. If he had known this, he would not have turned on the TV. But in this way, he and Xiaowei would lose an important topic, and maybe they would be put into another book by the other party. The program continued. No one knew if it was specially arranged by the TV station. At the beginning of the program, another guest, Zhuang Dong, attacked Lu Chun and asked several sharp questions, mainly about the pop music of Hong Kong. His sister was indignant. Why is he like this? If he has the ability, he should write a good song. In the face of Zhuang Dong's attack, Lu Chun dealt with it calmly and confidently. Lu Chun praised the great contribution of Hong Kong pop music to the Chinese music world, and also pointed out the common problems faced by pop music at present. He hoped that more talented musicians could emerge in the music world and reproduce the glory of Chinese music together. The watertight answer made Zhuang Dong's attack in vain. Perhaps he realized that this problem was not difficult for Lu Chun, so he quickly changed the topic to Hong Kong movies and the film support policies of the Hong Kong government. Chapter 479. Before I invited you to this show, I noticed that there were a lot of rumors on the internet. Shun Shuling's pair of phoenix eyes stared at Lu Chun without blinking. Her voice was so pleasant from beginning to end, but the taste in her words was not necessarily gentle and harmless. Someone said on a blog that the new support policy issued by the Hong Kong government could bring back the glory of the Hong Kong film industry. But first of all, it has attracted the wolves, which will undoubtedly have an impact on the Hong Kong film industry and further intensify the fierce competition. He suggested that the Hong Kong government should adjust the policy and impose restrictions on foreign actors. So, Lu Chun, do you think that you're also a member of the wolves? Or do you have any opinion on this? In the show, Shun Shuling was the host, and she was also the topic guide. Maybe she didn't take any position, but she interacted with the guests objectively and neutrally. However, this didn't mean that she didn't touch on sensitive topics. On the contrary, she was consciously driving the atmosphere of the conversation and creating conflicts and arguments. This was the first topic that Zhuang Dong brought up. He was undoubtedly a supporter of this sensitive topic. Seeing that Shun Shuling brought the fire of war to Lu Chun, a faint smile appeared on his face, as if he was watching a good show. In Zhuang Dong's eyes, Lu Chun was very young, which meant that he lacked enough experience, shrewdness, and adaptability. Moreover, Lu Chun had just come from the mainland, so he must be very unfamiliar with Hong Kong. Shun Shuling's question was very tricky, and it also touched on the sensitive side of Hong Kong people. If Lu Chun's answer was slightly appropriate, then his interview that night would be a failure. In other words, Zhuang Dong would win without a fight, and it would be an easy victory. In fact, it was not good to win too easily. Zhuang Dong even had a little regret. The real victory should be crushing the opponent in a fierce battle. Lu Chun pondered for a moment, as if he was thinking. It seemed that this question had really stumped him, which made Zhuang Dong more and more proud. But the audience sitting in front of the TV and watching this show had a different feeling. Ah Kang's sister complained, "Really? How can you ask such an outrageous question? How do you expect people to answer?" She was really infatuated with Lu Chun's handsomeness and instinctively spoke up for Lu Chun. Ah Kang sympathized with Lu Chun. If he had been questioned like this, he would have behaved even worse. In his heart, Ah Kang agreed with the wolves. When he worked in the company, he often heard from his colleagues that the reason why the market was so bad, the prices were so high, and the housing prices were so expensive were mainly because of the mainland. Mainlanders came to Xiangjiang to shop and buy real estate in Xiangjiang because the mainlanders took over the Xiangjiang company's business. Now, it was the movie industry's turn. What was the Hong Kong government thinking? Why didn't they think more about the locals? As the saying went, don't let the goodies flow to your own fields. His mind was a mess of thoughts, and then he thought of Xiao Wei. I wonder if Xiao Wei will be very angry? Just then, Lu Chun spoke on the TV screen. He looked very serious and said, "I think I and my colleagues from the mainland are not wolves. If you want a metaphor, I think I would like to be a catfish." Catfish? Shun Shuling was surprised. Why do you want to be a catfish? She felt that this metaphor was very strange. Lu Chun smiled slightly. His smile was sunny and brilliant, which made Shun Shuling feel a little excited. He said, "Let me tell you a story first. A long time ago, Norwegians liked to eat sardines, especially fresh sardines. But there were no aerators at that time, and the fishermen had to go out to sea to catch sardines for a long time. The sardines raised in the cabin did not like to move, and they often died on the way back to the port, so they could not be sold at a good price. But people found that many of the sardines caught by a fisherman were still alive, and he could always sell them at a high price. This secret was not revealed until the fisherman died. Lu Chun told the story in detail, and there was suspense. Not only did Shun Shuling listen attentively, even Zhuang Dong was curious. He wanted to see what Lu Chun was up to. Lu Chun continued. It turned out that the fisherman raised a catfish in the cabin. Among the sardines, there was an extra fierce creature. They would swim and dodge instinctively, and they maintained their vitality. Finally, many of them survived to the port. After the story was finished, Shun Shuling, Zhuang Dong, and many of the audience in front of the TV faintly understood. This also included the audience at the recording site, and the atmosphere in the studio became very subtle. Lu Chun continued. It can be said that I grew up watching Xiangjiang movies and TV dramas, mainly the Xiangjiang movies of 1990s. There are many real classics, such as Big Lawyer, True Love of the World, Hong Kong Hero, Life and Death Rescue, and so on. Shun Shuling laughed and said, Then you must be a fan of Lu Gangsheng. Lu Chun also laughed, nodded, and said calmly, Yes, the wish that I want to realize in Xiangjiang includes meeting my idol and being able to say a few words to him. Shun Shuling laughed. Then your wish will definitely come true. Lu Chen's admiration and respect for Lu Gangsheng made the Xiangjiang audience in front of the TV suddenly have a better impression of him. Lu Gangsheng could be said to be the symbol and representative of the Xiangjiang people's hard work. His legendary life experience, who knew how many Xiangjiang young people to work hard. His songs and films all had a profound influence in Xiangjiang. Lu Chun said, At that time, when Xiangjiang's classic movies and TV dramas were broadcast in the mainland, they could all win very high box office and ratings, especially TV dramas. It was not an exaggeration to say that tens of thousands of people turn out to watch them. But now, how much market does Xiangjiang's movies and TV dramas still have in the mainland? A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and the fierce counterattack was hidden in the implicit words, As far as I know, I'm afraid there is not even 1% left. Shun Shuling was silent. The muscles on Zhuang Dong's face twitched. He wanted to refute, but found that he was unable to refute, because what Lu Chun said was completely right. The once glorious Xiangjiang film and TV had long lost the ability to summon wind and rain in the mainland, and could only fight in their own territory and the traditional market in Southeast Asia. Lu Chen's words ruthlessly revealed the current situation of Xiangjiang's film and TV industry. Combined with the story he told before, anyone with a little bit of intelligence could understand what he wanted to express. Xiangjiang's film and TV industry was like sardines crowded in a narrow cabin, and they would die sooner or later, unless there was a catfish that stimulated them. Chapter 480. The story of catfish originated from Lu Chen's dream world memory. In the dream world, there was a special term called catfish effect, which meant introducing competition to stimulate the vitality of enterprises or industries. The story itself was actually fabricated, not real. Lu Chun used this fresh story that did not exist in this world to debate. It was undoubtedly very vivid and brilliant. Everyone could understand it and understand his meaning. Most importantly, Hong Kong's film and television industry was in urgent need of a real reform. The last glory of Hong Kong's film and television industry was in the 1990s, and it began to decline after entering the new century. Hong Kong's practitioners clung to the glory of the past and did not want to make progress. They did not realize the great changes in the market with the advent of the internet and were finally abandoned by the market. Now, although Hong Kong's film and television industry was still very developed, its influence was far less than before. What was worse was that the themes of the films and TV series were successful. Plagiarism and imitation were common on the screen, and the content of sh*t and sh*t had not changed for 10 years. Even Hong Kong's audience was beginning to get tired of it. How could they still hold the territory of the mainland and Southeast Asia markets? The future of the industry was in danger, so the Hong Kong government cooperated with the relevant domestic departments to issue support policies to allow mainland film and television companies to invest in Hong Kong and share preferential support. To put it bluntly, it was to stimulate the local practitioners. It was ridiculous that some people in the circle did not reflect on their own problems and blindly rejected foreign competition. In the end, they would die together like sardines. In fact, there were also many problems in the mainland's film and television industry, but the prevalence of big IPs brought prosperity to the market, and the film box office rose year by year. If Hong Kong wanted to regain its glory, it had to control the mainland market again. Regarding this problem, Liu Chun simply said it openly and did not avoid it. The biggest problem of Xiangjiang's film and TV series is the lack of popular IP and fresh creativity. Xiangjiang does not lack talents in the film and TV field, nor does it lack channels and resources, and has accumulated rich experience for decades, but now it has fallen behind the times. Hearing his words, many TV viewers nodded secretly. People in Hong Kong liked watching movies very much. According to statistics, on average, every person in Hong Kong spent more than 300 yuan on movies every year, which was a box office of 3 to 4 billion yuan, not including other expenses in the cinema. However, many people in Hong Kong, especially young people, liked and enthusiastically pursued Hollywood blockbusters, as well as Japanese and Korean movies or TV series. Shun Shuling asked, "Is this the reason why you chose to come to Hong Kong to make a movie?" Liu Chun said that he wanted to be a catfish in the Xiangjiang film and television industry. The most direct way to express it was definitely the new movie he was going to shoot. Otherwise, it would just be empty talk. One of the reasons, Liu Chun nodded without hesitation and said confidently, "This movie of mine will be an innovative and thoughtful work." Needless to say, Liu Chun's personal image was tall, handsome, and full of masculinity. As he continued to achieve achievements and improve his status in the industry, he naturally had a confident temperament that made people believe in him and trust him. His confidence not only affected the people present, but it could also be felt by the audience through the screen. In Ah Kang's room, his sister screamed and hugged her brother's arm tightly. She shook it hard and said, "Liu Chun is so handsome. I hereby announce that from today onwards, I am a fan of Liu Chun." Ah Kang couldn't help rolling his eyes and feeling sour in his heart. Xiaowei liked Liu Chun, and his sister became a fan of Liu Chun. The charm of this mainland artist was too great. Although he had to admit that Liu Chun, who was sitting on the set and talking with confidence at this moment, was very handsome and outstanding. Among the younger generation of Hong Kong artists, there were not many who could be compared with him. Zhuang Dong was very unconvinced and couldn't help but say, "If I remember correctly, this is your first movie?" The implication was that he dared to boast about his first movie. Wasn't he afraid of being cut by the wind? Liu Chun smiled faintly and said, "I debuted last year, and my first album sold more than 3 million copies. The first TV series I created and starred in broke 3% of the domestic audience rating and exceeded 30% in South Korea." Zhuang Dong was speechless without the need for a heavy hammer to strike the drum. His first album sold triple platinum, and his first TV series broke 3% of the mainland audience rating. It was also a great success in South Korea. Such dazzling achievements were beyond Liu Gongxing's reach in the first few years of his debut. What qualifications did Zhuang Dong have to think that Liu Chun's first movie would not be good? Liu Chun took the opportunity to advertise his new film, "Welcome to my first film, a Chinese ghost story," at that time. Please give me more valuable comments. In fact, Liu Chun was quite wrong when he was bombarded on 3 men in entertainment this time, because before him, many domestic film and television companies had already gone to Hong Kong to prepare to shoot movies. These film and television companies were far more famous and powerful than the newly established Liu Chun's Hong Kong studio. As a result, it was the latter who was shot down. Although he vigorously fought back against those unfavorable comments on the show, Liu Chun still wanted to get back some money. Shun Shuling couldn't help laughing. Although it was normal for stars to advertise their records or movies on the show, it was rare for Liu Chan to do it so openly. However, this showed his frankness and frankness. Shen Shuling said with a smile, "When your new movie is released, I will definitely support you with a movie ticket." Liu Chan put his palms together to express his gratitude. "Thank you, Sister Shen. Can you take your husband with you?" Shen Shuling laughed heartily. She was really amused. The same laughter sounded in the audience, and the atmosphere in the studio became extraordinarily harmonious, and the original sense of hostility disappeared. At this moment, when Three Men in Entertainment was broadcast, Shen Shuling was sitting in the director's room and paying attention to the ratings of her latest episode of hosting. She saw her overjoyed look on the monitor, and a smile appeared on her face again. Now, in retrospect, there were still many things that could be discovered from Liu Chan, but unfortunately, the time was too short. Ring ring, the phone in the director's room suddenly rang, and a staff member immediately picked it up. He said a few words into the microphone, and then stretched out his right hand to Shen Shuling, spreading his 5 fingers. 5%. Even though she had many years of experience in hosting and was used to great storms, Shen Shuling's heart jumped fiercely. The staff member told her through gestures that the ratings of this episode of Three Men in Entertainment had reached 5%, far exceeding the normal average of about 3%. Absolutely successful. Chapter 481. Xiangjiang was one of the 3 major special administrative regions. Whether it was the area or the resident population, it was far inferior to the capital, but the population density was big, surpassing the latter. The economy was developed, trade was prosperous, and the media was abundant. There were 2 major wireless hegemons in the TV station alone, Xiangjiang Satellite TV and ATV, and many small and medium-sized cable TV stations. So the competition for program content was very fierce. Even a difference of 0.1% in the ratings could cause a difference of several places. Although Xiangjiang Satellite TV and ATV steadily occupied 2 out of 3 parts of the world, and the common market share of the 2 had never been less than 70%, in recent years, they had also been strongly challenged by Pearl TV and Hong Kong cable TV. Whether it was program resources or ratings, they had been eroded little by little. There was no need to mention the competition between Xiangjiang Satellite TV and ATV. The grudges between the 2 major TV stations could shoot a long TV series with hundreds of episodes. In terms of ratings, they had long been competing. The veteran ATV had not gained the upper hand in this confrontation between the giants in recent years. There were also many problems within ATV. The competition for resources between the channels was very fierce, and the internal friction was serious. As one of the trump card programs of the Variety Channel, the 3 in Entertainment was also facing a severe test. As a variety talk show broadcast during prime time, the average audience rating of the 3 in Entertainment was around 3%, but this figure was calculated based on the audience rating of 10 years. If it was shortened to the last 3 years, then it would fall to around 2%, sometimes even lower than 2%. This was undoubtedly a dangerous sign. Shen Shuling, who hosted the 3 in Entertainment, was well aware of this. She also tried her best to improve the quality of the content of the program. She did not end up being axed in the end. The market was extremely cruel, and ATV was also a charity home for the elderly. A group of newcomers were eyeing her covetously. Shen Shuling looked very impressive on the surface, but in fact, she had always been trembling with fear. It was precisely because of this that she boldly went against the opinions of the public and invited the recent hot topic, Liu Chan, on the 3 in Entertainment to discuss the new film support policies of the Hong Kong government. At that time, the program team, including many people in the station, thought that Liu Chan was a new artist who had just come from the mainland and had no popularity base in Xiangjiang. With his identity and status, he did not meet the requirements of the 3 in Entertainment. They were worried that he would be criticized by the audience and people in the circle. However, it turned out that Shun Shuling's risk was right. Maybe the audience in Xiangjiang was very interested in this handsome star from the mainland, or maybe the competition brought about by the new movie support policy touched the sensitive points of many people. The ratings of the program actually rose steadily, and when it was near the end, it broke through 5%. 5%. This was quite an amazing result, enough to be comparable to those real big-name programs. The last time Entertainment 3 People Talk reached this rating was the result of inviting the heavenly queen of film, television, and song, Yin and I. Not only did Lu Chun on the 3 and not lower the level of the program, but it had the program of the big stars. The program had also brought the program to stars. Not only did the program of the 3 and programs of the program of the program of the program of the show, but also brought it. Instead, Shun Shuling believed that his handsomeness, temperament, and style of conversation would inevitably become a hot topic. The host of the ATV program seemed to see a new star rising in the sky of Xiangjiang. The program was still going on, but it was coming to an end. Shun Shuling said, "Actually, the first time I met Lu Chun was on a Hong Kong blog, and then someone forwarded the video to me. At that time, you were in a bar in Lan Kwai Fong, right?" Lu Chun nodded. "Yes, that was the first time I came to Xiangjiang. My friend recommended Lan Kwai Fong to me." Shun Shuling said with a smile, "Then you participated in the La Dolce Vita 97 singing competition and sang the song that everyone is familiar with, The Love of My Life. I heard that you wrote this song yourself. Is it for your girlfriend?" Lu Chun nodded. "Yes." The first part of the program was almost a debate session, and there were more disputes and conflicts. Now that it was almost the end, the atmosphere was relaxed, so it was time to talk about gossip. Shun Shuling controlled the rhythm of the conversation very well. Of course, he was also happy to cooperate. The only one who was not happy was probably the other guest, Zhuang Dong. Ever since he was hit by Lu Chen's several consecutive counterattacks, he was basically silent and no longer aggressive. Everyone's eyes were sharp. They had to admit that they lost the debate. If they continued to pester endlessly, they would only make a fool of themselves in front of the public and become a joke to their opponents. Shun Shuling obviously also noticed Zhuang Dong's predicament, so she changed to a relaxed topic. She turned to face the camera and said with a smile, "Many of our friends in front of the TV may not know, but Mr. Lu Chen's girlfriend is the domestic pop music queen, Miss Chun Fei. Moreover, Miss Chun Fei's 2 recent TV series have created miracles both at home and abroad." It must be noted that the screenwriter and male lead of these 2 TV series are both Lu Chun. Then Lu Chun, in your first movie, is the female lead still Miss Chun Fei? This time, Lu Chun shook his head. "No, the female lead is a new actress from Xiangjiang. In addition to the male lead and the director of A Chinese Ghost Story, most of the other actors are from the same industry in Xiangjiang, including our partners." The new film support policy issued by the Xiangjiang government had restrictions. For example, in the movies submitted for review, local actors in Xiangjiang needed to account for more than 60%. This was a hard rule. However, the main reason why Chun Fei was not chosen for A Chinese Ghost Story was because of the schedule. Shun Shuling said, "Then we will wait and see and look forward to the screening of your movie. In addition, at the end of the program, can you respond to the audience's call and sing The Love of My Life again here?" She added, "I also like this song very much." Lu Chun was pleased. "Thank you. Of course, that's no problem." This was arranged in advance by the program team. It was not a sudden attack on Lu Chun. He had already expected it. Without the official release of the official version of The Love of My Life, only relying on a mobile phone video, had almost become Lu Chen's current label. This classic Cantonese song had helped him to integrate into the entertainment industry of Xiangjiang to a large extent. It had an influence among the young people of Xiangjiang and could be considered to have played the greatest role. Therefore, this episode of Entertainment Talk with 3 People ended with Lu Chun playing the piano and singing The Love of My Life. After the program was officially broadcast, it caused a great response both inside and outside the circle of Xiangjiang. Chapter 482. November 25th, Tienda, Zodiac, Founding Day. Good for opening a business, seeking wealth, trading, traveling, moving, dating. The opening ceremony of Lu Chen's first film, A Chinese Ghost Story, was held in the famed temple of the Lion Rock Film and Television City. The famed temple of the Lion Rock Film and Television City was an old site. It was first built in the late Qing dynasty. Later, it was abandoned after 2 disasters. The ruins were overgrown with weeds, and it became a safe haven for wild foxes. In the early 1990s, when the Lion Rock Film and Television City began to build, the old site of the famed temple was included. The scene designer did not restore and rebuild it, but renovated it on the basis of the ruins, making it an excellent scene for shooting zombie and horror films. Many of the Xiangjiang zombie and ghost films that were popular in the 1990s were shot here. But now, due to the changes in the market, the popular themes in the past were no longer popular, and the utilization of the old site of the famed temple had decreased a lot. Therefore, it was easy for the studio to rent it at a low cost. There was a long table in front of the temple, which was used to worship gods. It was covered with red velvet, with a statue of Emperor Guan in the middle. On the left and right sides were incense burners, roast suckling pigs, fresh fruits, and so on. A camera was placed on the right side of the table, also covered with a red cloth, so that no one could see it. In the open space, a little further away, firecrackers were lit. Then, in the crackling sound, the crew members burned incense and worshipped the gods in turn, praying for a smooth shooting and the new film to be a hit. The ceremony of worshipping gods first originated in Hong Kong. People in Hong Kong believed in feng shui superstitions and liked to pray for good luck. The practice of worshipping gods and Buddha was very popular, and the film crew was no exception. There were many taboos. For example, the direction in which they prayed to the gods could not be wrong. At different times and different locations, everyone prayed to the gods in different directions. Roughly speaking, they had to pay attention to all directions. If they were to place it in the southwest instead of the south, there would be a difference of thousands of miles. Some of them even had to be accurate down to the latitude and longitude. It sounded incredible, but many Xiangjiang film crews had to invite experts to calculate before they started shooting, and they were not careless at all. Otherwise, if there were any twists and turns during the shooting process, they would inevitably suspect that they had encountered some bad luck. Luchin Studio had just been established, and its partner, Jiang Pictures, was not a top company in the industry. Therefore, the opening ceremony was not very big, but it was also very grand. Zhou Yi, the behind-the-scenes boss of Jiang Pictures, personally came to the scene. Of course, he accompanied his cousin, Nie Mingzhu, the heroine of A Chinese Ghost Story. Mrs. Jean also came, together with her 2 goddaughters, Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan. The 2 girls had arranged a small role in the film. Chen Wenxiang's daughter, and Chen Si. Chen Xiao, Yi Chun Studio. After he graduated, Yi in Studio, Yi in AO, and Yi Chun Yi and Yi in Studio, Chun Chun, Chen Chun Chun and 1 and Yi in Studio, Wu Wu 1 Chun Chen Studio and Chun. Chen Yang Studio and 1 Chun Studio, Chun Chun, Chen Chen Chun Studio, and Chun Yi and Chen Chun Yi and Chun. Chen Si played the role of Xiaoqing in A Chinese Ghost Story, a supporting female character with some weight. In fact, in the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, there were only 4 important characters, Ning Kaichun, Nie Xiaoqian, Yin Qixia, and the villain, Granny Tree Fairy. Basically, all the limelight was focused on them, especially the first 3. As the first supporting female character, Xiaoqing did not have many scenes in the movie, but both Chen Wenxiang and Chen Si were extremely satisfied. Other than Lu Chun, there were no other big-name actors in the movie. Ma Rongjin had long been outdated and reduced to being an extra, and most of the others were newcomers. Lu Chun himself had just made a name for himself in the film and television industry in Hong Kong, and he did not rely on the work itself. However, the investment of A Chinese Ghost Story was as high as 30 million yuan. Although it was not a top-notch production, it was precisely because there were no big names that there was no high salary. This large sum of money had to be invested in filming and post-production. It would be unfair if it did not produce a high-quality product. Chun-Si was already extremely lucky compared to her peers to be able to get such an important supporting female role in a movie for the first time. She was standing at a very high starting point from the beginning. As long as A Chinese Ghost Story did not fail miserably after it was released, she would have valuable qualifications. Seniority represented status. After offering incense and worshipping the gods, Lu Chun, Zhou Yi, Wan Xiaoquan, and Ye Mingzhu worked together to remove the red veil on the camera. The crew members gathered around applauded in unison, and there were also media reporters taking photos. It was said that this procedure originated from a fear of scratching. The so-called scratching referred to the film in the early days of the film era, when the film in the camera was accidentally scratched by the parts inside during filming. Once scratching occurred, it would cause immeasurable losses to the crew. However, machine scratching was unpredictable and difficult to prevent, so the only thing that could be done was to cover the camera with a red cloth to suppress evil. Nowadays, cameras had already been digitized, so there was no possibility of scratching. However, the more precise something was, the greater the problem, so this custom was still retained. After the red cloth was removed, the opening ceremony of A Chinese Ghost Story was basically over. Finally, it was time for the representatives of the crew to be interviewed by the media. Most of the media reporters were invited by Jiayang Pictures. There were more than a dozen of them, both big and small. They were there to support and to promote the film. Every reporter was stuffed with red packets. If a film and television entertainment company wanted to gain a foothold in Hong Kong, they could not afford to offend the people in the media. Otherwise, they would scold them all day on TV and newspapers or make up some false rumors. Then, they would not be able to make money. Of course, it was impossible to please all the media. Jiayang Pictures was a well-known film and television production company, and its boss, Zhou Yi, was a businessman in Hong Kong. He did not lack connections in the relevant media. However, there was a portion of the media that came uninvited. These reporters were obviously very interested in Lu Chun, so after the opening ceremony ended, they immediately surrounded him and asked him questions. Mr. Lu Chun, are you going to use this film to change the structure of Hong Kong's film industry? Why do you have such confidence and certainty? If this film flops, what are you going to do? Return to the mainland? Mr. Lu Chun, as far as I know, none of the actors in this film are big names. May I ask? The reporters' questions were like a machine gun, and all of them were aggressive. Chun Wenxiang and Wan Xiaoquan, who were standing at the side, had their faces turned black on the spot. Zhou Yi was very shrewd, and there was a hint of displeasure in his eyes. Chapter 483. The entertainment reporters of Xiangjiang were the existences that the Xiangjiang entertainment circle loved and hated. They could praise an artist to the sky, but they could also easily pull them down from the sky. Many Xiangjiang celebrities had a kind of fear towards entertainment reporters. In Xiangjiang, how to properly deal with entertainment reporters was a compulsory course for all new artists. If they failed this course, they would suffer sooner or later. There were many examples in the past that could prove it. As soon as the opening ceremony of A Chinese Ghost Story ended, Lu Chun was surrounded by these uninvited entertainment reporters. The questions were more tricky and even worse. This made people feel worried because Lu Chun was a star from the mainland. He had only debuted for a short time, so he definitely had not experienced such a scene. Once his youthful temperament flared up, the consequences would be unpredictable. With the nature of Xiangjiang's media, a small matter could be blown up into 10. They were not easy to deal with. Chun Wenxiang saw that the situation was not good and quickly gave Zhang Xiaofeng a look. He was ready to step forward to protect Lu Chun and separate him from the entertainment reporters to prevent Lu Chun from saying the wrong thing. However, Lu Chun did not panic at all. Even when he heard the obviously malicious questions, he still had a calm smile on his face, looking extremely calm. A few days ago at Xiangjiang Airport, Lu Chun had already seen a similar scene and had a direct understanding of Xiangjiang's paparazzi. He pondered for a moment and said to the microphone that was sent to his mouth, "There is no such thing as failure in my dictionary. I believe that this Chinese ghost story will definitely be a success. As for whether it can change the pattern of Xiangjiang's movies, I don't dare to boast. Just as I said in ATV's entertainment trio, I want to be a catfish. A catfish is not a crocodile, and I don't have that big of an appetite. As for the quality of the movie, you are very welcome to go to the cinema to watch and evaluate it. You can leave your contact information here. Our studio will give you free tickets and premiere gifts." Lu Chen's answer could be said to be a combination of words and actions. He cleverly avoided the trap of the reporter's question, but he also fully demonstrated his confidence. In the end, he did not forget to give some benefits. Whether it was Chen Wenxiang or Zhou Yi, the heavy burden in their hearts was instantly lifted. Most of the time, Lu Chen's youth made people feel uneasy, but in reality, he had never disappointed them. There is no such thing as failure in my dictionary. This sentence was absolutely domineering. When entertainment reporters heard it, their eyes lit up as if they had grasped something important. One of them eagerly asked, "The investment for a Chinese ghost story is said to be 30 million yuan. Although it's not considered a top-notch production, it's still considered very high. Since the investment is so high, why don't I see any stars in the movie? Is it because you can't get him? Or is the pay all on your own? Or is 30 million just a bluff?" Before the launch ceremony, Lu Chen's Hong Kong studio and Jiang Pictures announced the news related to a Chinese ghost story on their respective blogs, including the investment amount and the cast. The reporter questioned Lu Chen aggressively about the 30 million budget. Lu Chen took a deep look at him and asked, "May I ask which media are you from?" The other party replied proudly, "I'm a reporter from Polo Daily." Polo Daily? Lu Chen had an impression of this Hong Kong newspaper. He smiled faintly and said, "First of all, I'm acting in a Chinese ghost story for free, so there's no problem of me spending the budget on myself." A common method for stars to invest in movies or TV series was to sign a high salary for themselves. On the one hand, it was to increase their value, and on the other hand, it was also to increase the investment amount as a publicity point. For example, Lu Chen's real value was 10 million yuan, but it became 50 million yuan through left-handed publicity. Many star artists, including some big stars, did this, and investors were happy to cooperate. However, in the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, Lu Chen did the opposite. He did not take a penny, and his goal was to use more of the budget on pre-filming and post-production. Zero salary? The budget was used on filming and production. The expressions of the entertainment reporters present couldn't help but be a little strange. In the film and television industry, such a thing could not be said to be unique, but it was also a rare existence now. Nowadays, Hong Kong's movies either took the low-budget, vulgar path or were blockbusters with big stars. There were really very few people who could sink down and seriously produce a movie. Some of them had already been eliminated by the market. The young man in front of them really gave everyone a different feeling. The reporter from Polo Daily did not give up. He was rejected on the budget issue, so he suddenly changed the topic and pointed his spear at Ma Rongxing, who was standing next to him. As far as I know, Mr. Ma Rongxing is a famous box office poison in the circle. Why did you invite him to play an important supporting role in this movie? The nickname Box Office Poison was obtained by Ma Rongxing in the later stage of his acting career. At that time, the movies he participated in were losing money, but it was maliciously imposed on him. In fact, at that time, Hong Kong's movies were going downhill. Ma Rongxing's type was relatively fixed, and the roles he was invited to play were basically the same. The theme itself was not good, and coupled with the environment, it was strange that he did not fail. However, after the nickname spread, Ma Rongxing's acting career was basically ruined. No one invited him to act in movies anymore, so his situation was getting worse and worse. He had to be reduced to working as a handyman in Lion Rock to make a living. In front of everyone, the reporter from Polo Daily opened Ma Rongxing's scar, which made Ma Rongxing's face suddenly turn red. He couldn't help clenching his fists. His knuckles turned white because of the excessive force, but he lowered his head. Because he couldn't do anything, whether to refute or fight back, he would only fall into the other party's trap. Ma Rongjin didn't want to lose this precious opportunity, so he could only silently endure the humiliation. Lu Chun noticed Ma Rongjin's expression, and his eyes flashed with an imperceptible sharpness. He said without hesitation, "I have never heard of box office poison. In my eyes, there are only good actors and bad actors, and Ma Rongjin is an excellent and dedicated actor. I believe that he will be able to play the important role of Yin Qi well. This is why I invited him." Lu Chen's words were sonorous and powerful, with unshakable firmness. It was his strong support for Ma Rongjin. It was also a powerful counterattack to the reporter with ulterior motives. Ma Rongjin couldn't help but straighten his back and raise his head again. At this moment, his heart was filled with the feeling of a gentleman would die for a bosom friend. Chapter 484. Mainland star Lu Chan shoots new film for zero pay. Is it real or just hype? Lu Chun supports Ma Rongjin. Is salted fish about to make a comeback? Industry insiders assert that mainland actors are afraid of not acclimatizing to Hong Kong, and their prospects are worrying. Is it arrogance or confidence? Is an investment of 30 million yuan a waste of water? The box office poison of the past is shooting a new film today. On the second day after a Chinese ghost story officially started shooting, many media and entertainment pages in Xinjiang published relevant news. Other than a few paid news, most of the other newspapers and periodicals were full of doubts. Such a situation would basically not happen in the mainland. Xinjiang's territory was small, and the size of the market was limited. There were many media, and most of them only paid attention to Hong Kong news. There were not that many gossip news in the entertainment industry to hype. Therefore, Lu Chun, who had recently become the focus of attention, inevitably became the target of some media. The pressure of public opinion he faced was actually related to the mentality of many Hong Kong people. Many people in Xinjiang believe that the entry of mainland funds and enterprises would intensify competition and snatch the jobs of local people. Although Lu Chun threw out the catfish theory in 3 Entertainment Men Talk and dispelled the doubts of some people, the influence of the program was limited after all. He still needed to prove himself with more facts. For some of the Xinjiang media who were eager to see the world in chaos, Lu Chun had become the representative of the mainland film and television industry in Xinjiang. They were desperately trying to dig out topics from him. Among them, the fiercest was the Polo Daily. This well-known newspaper in Xinjiang published 3 reports in its entertainment section at the same time, questioning Lu Chen's zero pay, ridiculing the box office poison Ma Rongjin, and asserting that a Chinese ghost story would not be successful. One of the articles listed the data seriously and quoted the analysis and comments of so-called industry experts. In the end, the conclusion was that the mainlanders represented by Lu Chun would not be able to gain a foothold in Xinjiang's entertainment industry for long. There were many criticisms and few praises. There were very few neutral people. The citizens of Xinjiang watched the liveliness, and to a large extent, it promoted a Chinese ghost story, which had just started shooting. The crew of a Chinese ghost story, who had already entered the shooting state, had no time to care about the outside world. They were busy working on the set of Lion Rock Film City, try to finish shooting before the new year. Crack! Wan Xiaoquan frowned, waved the loudspeaker in his hand, and said loudly, "What's wrong with the lighting here? Adjust it immediately and reshoot." Wan Xiaoquan, who picked up the microphone again, felt as if he had been given a new life. He had inexhaustible energy. His position in the crew was very special. He had the title of assistant director. In the future, his name would not appear at the beginning or the end of the movie that was broadcast in the mainland, including the publicity. The reason was obvious. For at least 2 years, Wan Xiaoquan would have to tuck his tail between his legs. The nominal director of A Chinese Ghost Story was Lu Chun, but in fact, the film was directed by Wan Xiaoquan. It It was nothing more than to avoid the policy. Because of this, Wan Xiaoquan paid more attention to this movie than Lu Chun. Before the shooting started, he studied the script all night and discussed the plot and characters with Lu Chun. He put all his attention into it. Wan Xiaoquan was good at shooting movies with costume themes. Many of his previous works had been successful at the box office and received good reviews. Moreover, he was known for his serious and meticulous work in the circle. Otherwise, Lu Chun would not have chosen him to direct his first movie. With Lu Chun's full support, enough funding, and away from the domestic right and wrong, Wan Xiaoquan is very scary when he is serious. After a few days of shooting, the members of the crew have been convinced by the director from China, and there have been no troublesome incidents of overtly complying but covertly opposing. Of course, the participation of Jiang Pictures was indispensable during the shooting process. Today's scene was the scene where Ning Kaiqian met Nie Xiaoqian for the first time in Lanrua Temple. Lu Chun, who was dressed like a scholar, had a great change in temperament under the careful makeup of the makeup artist. Because of the mistakes in the lighting, the reshooting went smoothly. It was already past noon when the shooting was finished. Wan Xiaoquan finally let go of the starving crew members and told them to quickly fill their stomachs. The stage manager's assistant brought over the incubator, which was filled with stacked lunchboxes. Although there were not many roles in a Chinese ghost story, the crew members who should not be missing were all there. Big and small people added up to nearly 100 people, so that the shooting progress could be ensured. With so many people busy on the set, they certainly could not go to restaurants outside to eat. Otherwise, it would waste a lot of time going back and forth, and it would also affect their working state. Therefore, whether it was in China or in Hong Kong, the crew members basically ate takeout lunchboxes. The staff contacted the restaurant in advance, ordered the quantity and price of the lunchboxes, and delivered them on time. Let's eat. Everyone gathered around and went to take the lunchboxes, then found a place to sit down and eat. Although Lu Chun was an investor, the screenwriter, and the lead actor, he and director Wan Xiaoquan also ate the same lunchboxes. There was no special treatment, and it could be said that they shared the joys and sorrows with everyone. But today's situation was a little special. When Lu Chun opened the lid of the lunchbox, he could not help but frown, because the quality of the lunchbox in his hand was really a little terrible. The rice was yellow, as if it was steamed with old rice. A few pieces of vegetables and cucumbers were wilted, and a few were not fresh. The poached eggs were missing, and the remaining 2 pieces of ribs only had bones and no meat. This lunchbox would probably be considered trash, even if it was fed to a dog. What's going on? Today's lunchbox is so bad. Is it even edible? What's going on? It's all rotten. You guys eat. I'll just watch. Damn it. It was not only Lu Chun's lunchbox, but the rest were the same. The crew members all complained. Seeing such a scene, Lu Chun could not sit still. He stood up with a sullen face, waved at the assistant who was still distributing the lunchboxes, and said, "Please come here." The young assistant quickly put down the lunchbox, wiped his hands, ran over and asked, "Young Master Lu, what's the matter?" Lu Chun handed the lunchbox in his hand to him. "What do you think?" The assistant looked at the lunchbox, then looked at Lu Chun and said awkwardly, "Young Master Lu, I don't know." Lu Chun twitched the corner of his mouth and said lightly, "Then invite Old Merchant over." Old Merchant was a staff member of the crew of A Chinese Ghost Story, a veteran in the circle sent by Jiang Pictures. Logically speaking, under his management, such a thing should not have happened. There must be something wrong. Chapter 485. Old Merchant soon arrived. He was in his 40s and had a short stature and small eyes. He gave people the impression that he was very smart and eloquent. He was very good at coordinating all aspects. Although they didn't know each other before, Lu Chun was very satisfied with Old Merchant's ability after a few days. A crew member was the person in charge of daily affairs during the filming process. His main task was to take care of the basic necessities of the crew members, such as food, clothing, housing, and transportation. It was tedious but essential. If a crew didn't have a good crew member, there would often be a lot of problems. When Old Merchant saw the completely substandard boxed lunches, his expression suddenly changed. He was shocked and angry. "Child Lu, I'm really sorry. I'll go and find out what happened right away." Lu Chen nodded. "Then go and ask them to change the batch, or just order the boxed lunches from another restaurant." Although he didn't reprimand Old Merchant was obviously very stressed. He left in a hurry. Naturally, no one ate the boxed lunches. Everyone put the lunches back into the incubator. The atmosphere on the set was a bit strange. Many people sat together and whispered. Wan Xiaoquan said helplessly, "So, they don't want to do business anymore?" Chun Wenxiang said in a low voice, "I'm afraid it's not that simple." Lu Chen was shocked and asked, "Uncle Chong?" Chun Wenxiang hesitated and said, "The boxed lunches in the Lion Rock studio are occupied by 2 clubs. No one else can intervene. I don't know which restaurant our crew booked, but there's probably something wrong with them. Otherwise, no restaurant would do something like this." Clubs? Lu Chun was stunned. He didn't expect that a small matter like eating boxed lunches would involve Hong Kong's clubs. The clubs Chen Wenxiang mentioned were definitely not regular and good mutual benefit organizations, but gangs. In layman's terms, they were Hong Kong's underworld gangs. The gangs in Hong Kong were once very popular in the 1970s and 1980s. At that time, the activities of Shenghe, Sinan, Hongdang, and other triad organizations were rampant. There were hundreds of thousands of gang members, and their forces were spread all over Hong Kong, Macau, Treasure Island, and several countries in Southeast Asia. They even established branches in the Chinese areas of Europe and the United States. These big gangs and societies operated drug trafficking, smuggling, prostitution, piracy, gambling, and so on. The small societies under them collected protection fees and dominated the market, causing the public order of Xinjiang to be very bad. At that time in Xinjiang, even the rich and powerful felt insecure and had to bring bodyguards with them when they went out. Otherwise, they might be kidnapped and blackmailed by a few daring gangsters. On July 15, 1987, the long-accumulated conflict between the 2 gangs, Xian and Hung Tang, broke out. Thousands of gang members from both sides fought on the streets of the prosperous areas of the new territories, resulting in the tragic result of 78 deaths and 154 serious injuries. There were countless minor injuries, and several innocent passers-by were killed by stray bullets. The bloody case of the new territories on July 15th shocked the whole of Hong Kong, causing the people to protest on the streets. It also prompted the Xinjiang government to finally make up their minds to solve this cancer, and specially applied for help from the troop stationed in Hong Kong. In March 1988, in the crackdown carried out by the Xinjiang government, many triad organizations that had been rampant in Hong Kong for decades were uprooted. A large number of backbone members were either killed on the spot or arrested and imprisoned, which made countless people in Xinjiang applaud. At this point, the public order of Xinjiang had been fundamentally improved. However, the triad organizations that had great influence in Xinjiang society did not completely disappear. After the old gangs such as Shenghe, Sinan, and Hongtang collapsed, new gangs emerged again. However, these new gangs no longer brazenly engaged in illegal activities. They registered companies to engage in legal operations and secretly did some business. The members of the gangs no longer easily wielded knives and guns, and the means of making money were more hidden. They even hired lawyers as legal consultants. This kind of new gang was even more difficult to deal with. Dealing with them was undoubtedly a very troublesome thing. And the gangs in Xinjiang had deep entanglements with the entertainment industry. Many film and television entertainment companies had the background and power of gangs in the past. Although they were basically washed clean, they were still secretly connected. In just a few minutes, Old Merchant came back with 3 people. Old Merchant's face was very ugly. He introduced to Lu Chun, "Young Master Lu, this is Manager Jiang of Honghua Restaurant Management Limited. Our crew's lunchbox is ordered through Honghua Restaurant. Manager Jiang and the others have something to talk to us about." This Manager Jiang of Honghua Restaurant was a middle-aged man with the head of a mouse and the eyes of a mouse. His hair was thickly oiled, and he was worried that even flies would not be able to stand on it. He was wearing a suit and a tie, and he also wore a pair of nondescript gold-rimmed glasses, giving people the impression that he was wretched. "Young Master Lu, hello." Manager Jiang nodded and bowed to greet Lu Chun, opening his mouth to reveal a mouthful of gold teeth. Following behind him were two burly men. Their faces were expressionless, and their bare arms were covered with dark green tattoos. Their bulging muscles made them look like they were very powerful. Lu Chun immediately understood when he saw this posture. He nodded and lightly said, "Okay, let's talk somewhere else." It was definitely not okay here. The surrounding crew members were all watching, and many people's eyes were full of doubt. The place chosen for the conversation was a meditation room in the temple, which was also used as the crew's temporary office. After sitting down, Lu Chun went straight to the point and asked, "Manager Jiang, can you explain what happened to our crew's lunchbox today? Did we not pay the fees that we owed you?" Manager Jiang said with a smile, "Young Master Lu, your crew's food and beverage fees were paid on time. We are also very sorry that there was a problem with today's lunchbox. I can guarantee that this kind of thing will not happen again." But he suddenly changed the topic and said, "The prices in Xiangjiang are very high now. Recently, the prices of vegetables and pork have risen greatly. If we follow the original price, our company will lose money. So what?" Manager Jiang did not say any more and looked at Lu Chun with a smile. Lu Chun calmly continued for him, "So you want to raise the price?" "I'm really sorry." Manager Jiang rubbed his hands, and the smile on his face became even wider. "There's nothing we can do about the price increase. Our company's employees also have to eat." Lu Chun interrupted his verbose words. "Just say it. How much do you want to raise it?" Manager Jiang gave Lu Chun a thumbs up. Young Master Lu is really straightforward, worthy of being a big star from the mainland. In fact, it's not much. In the future, pay 55 yuan for a lunchbox. We guarantee the quality. 55 yuan. If Lu Chun remembered correctly, the original price of a lunchbox was 30 yuan, and now the price was increased to 55 yuan, which was equivalent to nearly doubling. Chapter 486. The crew of a Chinese ghost story had nearly 100 members. If the temporary hired extras were added, there would be more than 100 people. Even if 100 people were counted, 2 meals a day would require a total of 200 boxed meals. Originally, 30 yuan per box, the basic cost of meals per day would be 6,000 yuan. Now that it had soared to 55 yuan, that was 11,000 yuan. They had to pay an additional 4,500 yuan. The scenes involved in this movie were basically all in the Lion Rock film and television base. In the case of no outdoor shooting, the crew would need to stay for at least a month, which meant that they had to pay an extra 100,000 to 200,000 yuan. Honghua Restaurant was really black-hearted. According to the box meals from yesterday, it was at most 15 yuan in the mainland. If the quantity was large, they could still get a discount. Their profit itself was already very good. The prices in Xiangjiang were high, but not to this extent. Wan Xiaoquan, who was sitting next to Lu Chun, couldn't stand it anymore. "You guys are..." Before he finished speaking, he was stopped by Lu Chun. Lu Chun's expression didn't change. He nodded and said, "If you can guarantee the quality of the food, then we can accept the price of 55 yuan, but we won't pay for this batch of box meals at noon." Manager Jiang obviously didn't expect Lu Chun to be so easy to talk to. He asked for an exorbitant price, but Lu Chun actually agreed so easily. Even with his cunning, he couldn't help but be stunned. "Really?" Lu Chun hooked his finger and knocked on the table, saying lightly, "I'm not kidding. That's good." Manager Jiang suddenly showed a proud smile. His eyes flashed a touch of greed, and he continued to say, "In addition, the box meals are boxed meals, and the delivery will cost more." Was Honghua crazy? Even Chun Wenxiang looked angry. "Manager Jiang, this is against the rules, isn't it? Clubs also had their own rules, especially the whitewashing clubs. Even if they were to bully others, they still had to follow the rules." Otherwise, if they caused public anger, they would be the unlucky ones. Previously, Manager Jiang asked for an exorbitant price. He nearly doubled the price of the boxed meals, and Lu Qin agreed. Now, he actually wanted to pay for the delivery. It was simply a naked extortion. There was something wrong with the smell inside. Manager Jiang glanced at Chen Wenxiang meaningfully and said, "Brother Chong, rules are set by people. Don't you know that in this circle? That's the rule in our company now." He looked at Lu Chun as if he was looking at a fat sheep. "Young Master Lu, you're a big star who makes a lot of money every day. If you come to Xiangjiang to shoot a movie, you will definitely make a lot of money. You don't need our hard-earned money, do you?" Lu Chun smiled, but there was no smile in his eyes. "I don't like trouble. If I can solve the problem with money, then I don't mind spending some money to avoid disaster. But this doesn't mean that I'm afraid of trouble. Since your company doesn't have the sincerity to cooperate, then you don't need to send boxed meals anymore. I believe that our crew won't be starving because of this." To be honest, the main reason why Lu Chun chose to start his film career in Xiangjiang was because of the new film support policy issued by the Xiangjiang government. With this policy, he could easily enter the domestic film market, and he could also establish a foothold in Xiangjiang and radiate to Treasure Island, Australia, and Southeast Asian countries. The benefits were self-evident. However, shortcuts were not easy to take. Lu Chun really didn't consider the gangs and clubs in Xiangjiang at that time, because there was basically no such problem in domestic movies or TV series. As the saying goes, a strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. Lu Chun was not a strong dragon, so he was willing to spend more money in exchange for peace. As long as a Chinese ghost story was successfully filmed and released, how much he spent would naturally be earned back. However, the other party's greed and shamelessness were far beyond Lu Chen's expectations. They were insatiable, which made his patience completely disappear. Without Butcher Zhang, did they have to eat pigs with hair? Nonsense. Hearing Lu Chen's resolute refusal, and his attitude turned 180 degrees, Manager Zhang's smile suddenly froze on his face, and he looked quite ridiculous. Lu Chen didn't give him a chance to speak. He got up and said, "Uncle Chong, see the guest out." So ruthless, Manager Jiang was furious. A strong man who had been standing behind him immediately stepped forward, raised his hand, and pointed at Lu Chun and shouted, "How can you talk to our manager, Jiang? Don't be so shameless." Gangs and clubs were gangs and clubs. The factor of violence had long been hidden in their blood. Moreover, it was impossible to do this kind of monopoly business without strong power. The people brought by Manager Jiang were actually thugs. If everyone was good, they would naturally be decorations. But now that it was time to turn hostile, they had to show their strength. The hairy arms were black and thick, and the fingers with long radishes were about to poke Lu Chen's face. The stern rebuke was 100% deterrent for ordinary people. However, Lu Chen wasn't an ordinary person, and he wasn't alone. There was no need for Lu Chun to respond. Wan Yong, who was originally sitting beside Lu Chun, suddenly made a move. He grabbed the opponent's finger with lightning speed and pulled it up. Ah! The burly man involuntarily let out a blood-curdling scream, startling everyone present. Under the severe pain, he instinctively raised his leg and wanted to kick Wan Yong, but Wan Yong's right foot kicked his knee first, causing him to suddenly lose his balance and heavily fall to the ground. This was the result of Wan Yong being lenient. If it was a life-and-death fight, the finger bones and patella would have been broken into several pieces. Wan Yong let go of his hand and stared at the other thug who was ready to make a move. No one doubted that if this guy made any unusual moves, he would inevitably suffer from Wan Yong's thunderous counterattack. Manager Jiang was also scared. After a while, he came back to his senses, gritted his teeth, and said, "Okay, business can't be done, but benevolence and righteousness still exist. Let's wait and see." These two sentences were a bit incoherent, but no one thought it was funny. The people from Honghua restaurant left dejectedly. Wan Xiaoquan, Chen Wenxiang, and the others didn't feel happy at all. Everyone knew that the real trouble was yet to come. The other party wouldn't let it go so easily. Lu Chen looked at Old Merchant and said, "When we first negotiated the cooperation, Jiang Pictures had a guarantee. Now that something like this has happened, I want to know what your boss thinks." Compared to Lu Chen's studio, Jiang Pictures was the local bully. Using the local bully to deal with the local bully was naturally the best choice. Lu Chen wasn't afraid of trouble, and he wouldn't easily take everything on himself. Otherwise, what was the point of having a partner? Under his intense gaze, Old Merchant felt a lot of pressure. Fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. "Young Master Lu, Jiang Pictures will give you an explanation." Lu Chen nodded and said, "That's for the best." However, in his heart, he didn't think that Jiang Pictures would succeed. It was impossible for Honghua to not know about the existence of Jiang Pictures. Manager Jiang was here to slap them in the face. Let's wait and see. Chapter 487. After driving away Honghua's people, the hundreds of people in the crew of a Chinese ghost story still had to eat. This problem was easy to solve. Lu Chun asked Chun Wenxiang to drive to the nearest restaurant to buy lunchboxes. Honghua Catering couldn't monopolize all the big and small restaurants around Lion Rock Mountain. Could it? He gathered the crew members and gave them a brief explanation, asking them to overcome their difficulties for the time being. Of course, the crew members expressed their understanding. Even if many of them were muttering in their hearts, they all supported Lu Chun, the real boss, on the surface. It was not a big deal to eat late. They wouldn't die even if they skipped a meal. By the time Chun Wenxiang came back with the lunchboxes and everyone finished eating, it was already 2 p.m. The crew of a Chinese ghost story was not large. Most of the staff were sent by Jiang Pictures. The news spread quickly inside, so everyone basically knew what had happened. This made the people in the crew a little anxious. As a result, the shooting in the afternoon went wrong frequently. Wan Xiaoquan didn't know how many NGs he had made, which made him annoyed and his voice a lot rougher. Seeing the situation, Lu Chan decisively called it a day and asked everyone to go back to rest early. In order to calm people down, he also asked Qin Wenxiang to pay the crew a meal fee. The amount was not much, but it was considered a dinner fee because the crew originally provided 2 meals for lunch and dinner. At the end of the day, Qin Wenxiang was careful and sent 2 more people to stay on the set to ensure safety. This was the trouble of offending gangs. If the other party played tricks on the set, it was possible that all the previous work of the crew would be wasted. After returning, Lu Chun gathered several important members of the studio together and discussed countermeasures at the same time of dinner. In this regard, the most experienced person was definitely Chun Wenxiang. He said, "I just called my friend to confirm it. The backer of Honghua Catering is Shengyi Hall." At the end of the 80s, the triad organizations in Xiangjiang were severely attacked by the government. The 3 major gangs, Shenghe, Sinan, and Hongtang, collapsed. However, a centipede died, but did not die, and many new gangs were re-established on the basis of the 3 gangs. Shengyi Hall was one of them. The Jiang family that established and controlled Shengyi Hall was quite famous in Xiangjiang. On the surface, the businesses they operated involved real estate, finance, import and export trade, catering, and so on. The eldest of the Jiang family was called Jiang Tai. He was shrewd and valiant, and his business methods were rather ruthless. He married 5 wives and had more than 10 children. Among them, his 5 sons were known as the 5 Tigers in the Victory Hall. The general manager of Honghua Restaurant was Jiang Tai's 3rd son, Jiang Changhua. In the industry, Jiang Chenghua's reputation was quite good, so Qin Wenxiang was very puzzled by Honghua Restaurant's tricks against the crew of a Chinese ghost story, because it was against the rules. "I've already asked a friend in the industry to investigate and see what's going on." Qin Wenxiang continued, "We have no grudge against Jiang Changhua. If Jiang Pictures is not in trouble, then someone is trying to deal with us through Jiang Changhua." Qin Wenxiang first suspected Jiang Pictures when something like this happened. He didn't know Jiang Changhua at all, and he had never offended the Jiang family. Needless to say, Lu Chun had only been in Xiangjiang for a few days. Jiang Changhua couldn't suddenly go crazy and cause trouble for them for no reason. As for Jiang Pictures, it was hard to say. The history of Jiang Pictures could be traced back to the 1980s. At that time, the gangs in Xiangjiang were very powerful, and they had a great influence on the film and television entertainment industry. If a film and television entertainment company did not have the background or relationship with a gang, it would be impossible for it to survive. At this point, who could guarantee that there weren't any old grudges left behind? In addition, there was Zhou Yi, the behind-the-scenes boss of Jiang Pictures. He had been doing business in Xiangjiang for so many years, and he was so smart that he must have offended a lot of people. All of these could cause trouble for the crew. Wan Xiaoquan frowned and asked, "Then what should we do?" He wouldn't encounter such a thing when he was filming in China. What happened today made him feel very bad. He originally wanted to shoot the movie seriously, but he didn't expect that there would be new problems as soon as they started. Lu Chun said, "I've already asked Jiang Pictures to give us an explanation. Our shooting plan should not be changed for the time being. Tomorrow's lunchbox will be bought by Brother Zhang outside. It won't be troublesome if there are people and cars." Although that was what he said, everyone knew that things would not be so simple. Hong Hua hadn't achieved his goal, and it was impossible for him to stop. However, in the current situation, he could only take one step at a time and deal with the situation as it came. Wan Xiaoquan and Chen Wenxiang looked at each other and nodded. Ring, ring, ring. At this time, Lu Chen's cell phone suddenly rang. He took it out and looked at it. "It's Joey." He pressed the call button, and the slightly feminine voice of the boss of Jiang Pictures came through the receiver. "Master Lu." Lu Chen replied in a deep voice. "Hello, Boss Zhou. What can I do for you?" Even a clay figurine had some anger. When they first cooperated, Jiang Pictures promised that they would be able to finish filming a Chinese ghost story smoothly. Other than the filming and production, they would be able to take care of everything else. Everyone had seen the result. Thinking of the half a day wasted and the emotional turmoil in the crew, how could Lu Chun not be angry? Through the microphone, Lu Chun seemed to be able to see the bitter smile on Zhou Yi's face at this moment. "Young Master Lu, you're treating me like an outsider. I already know what happened today. The problem is very big. Can we talk face to face?" Lu Chun thought for a moment and asked, "When?" "Zhou Yi, let's do it now. Is it convenient for you?" Lu Chun, "Sure." Zhou Yi gave him an address. It was not far from where Lu Chun was eating, so he brought Wan Xiaoquan, Chen Wenxiang, and the others to the appointment. The place to meet was called Oaken Clubhouse. This private clubhouse was located in the bustling business district of Shenghuan. It was a place frequented by the upper class of Xiangjiang, and the membership fee was more than 1,000,000 yuan a year. Zhou Yi booked a private room in the clubhouse. He brought an assistant and Yan Mingzhu with him. When they met, Zhou Yi's first words were, "Master Lu, I'm really sorry this time." Lu Chun suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart, because from Zhou Yi's tone, it seemed that he was planning to withdraw. Once Jiang Pictures gave up on the collaboration, it meant that Lu Chun would have to rebuild the crew and even choose a new female lead. All his previous efforts would be in vain. Chapter 488. People who knew and understood Zhou Yi thought that he was a real businessman. Businessmen valued profits over friendship. A real businessman often had great courage in the face of rich interests and dared to challenge the rules. Now that trouble had just appeared, Zhou Yi actually wanted to retreat, which really surprised Lu Chun. In this cooperation between the two sides, Lu Chun has given up a large part of the benefits. He is very confident about the box office of a Chinese ghost story. This work, which is regarded as a classic in the dream world, will inevitably shine its due light. The 30 million production cost was very likely to bring several times, or even 10 times the profit. Of course, Zhou Yi definitely did not know the origin of a Chinese ghost story, but it was impossible for him to be ignorant of Lu Chen's influence and appeal in the mainland. Otherwise, he would not have actively promoted the cooperation. So what made him give up? Lu Chun was prepared for the worst in his heart. He said calmly, "Mr. Zhou, you're exaggerating. Let's sit down and talk slowly." They all knew each other, so there was no need to introduce each other and greet each other politely. Everyone sat down together. Zhou, he personally picked up the teapot and poured a cup of hot tea for Lu Chen. He sighed and said, "Child Lu, you must be suspecting that Jiang Pictures, or I have a grudge against Shengyi Hall, which is behind Honghua. But I can tell you frankly that I have never offended anyone from the Jiang family. If it's just the boss of Honghua, Jiang Chenghua, I'm not afraid. But his father, Jiang Tai, I don't even have a right to talk to him as an equal. It's not a problem with Jiang Pictures." Lu Chun was stunned. What was going on? Zhou, he obviously understood what he was thinking and continued. "I've already asked someone to find out what's going on with Jiang Chenghua. I believe there should be accurate information in the next 2 days. And according to my guess, the boss of Jiang Pictures hesitated for a moment, but he did not say anything. Lu Chun smiled faintly and said, "Mr. Zhou, if you have something to say, just say it. It doesn't matter even if your guess is wrong." Zhou, he smiled and said, "I'm guessing that Honghua wants to take a stake in this movie. I heard that Jiang Chenghua recently has plans to set up his own entertainment company and enter the film industry. But in the current situation, it's not easy for him to find a suitable partner. So you chose my movie as your stepping stone?" Lu Chun immediately laughed. "I'm just a newcomer from the mainland. In his eyes, I'm a fat sheep, right?" Zhou Yi's expression was a little awkward, obviously agreeing with Lu Chen's words. "This is just my guess. The real situation still depends on the other party." Lu Chun pondered for a moment. He tapped his fingers on the table and asked, If Honghua really wants to invest and I agree, what are your plans, Boss Zhou?" Zhou Yi replied without hesitation, "Then I'll withdraw. I can't afford to offend the Jiang clan." His answer was very straightforward, directly admitting that he was afraid. Lu Chen understood what he meant. What if I don't agree? Zhou Yi's answer was still straightforward. Jiang Pictures is willing to continue the cooperation, but we can't directly confront the Jiang clan. If Jiang Tai asks, then I can only withdraw. Lu Chen understood. Although Zhou Yi said that he didn't dare to offend the Jiang clan, the premise was that the boss of the Jiang clan, Jiang Tai, was also involved in this matter. Otherwise, Jiang Pictures would not give up the cooperation. But it was not realistic to count on Jiang Pictures to deal with Honghua. Zhou Yi's behavior was typical of a businessman to seek benefits and avoid harm. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a little shameless. But he was blunt and had the demeanor of a real villain. Everything was laid out on the table for discussion. Lu Chen wasn't angry. He thought for a moment and said, "Then let's leave it at that for now. Boss Zhou, please find out more useful information about Honghua. If it involves any costs, our studio is willing to bear them." "You're too kind, too kind." Zhou, he waved his hand and said, "Once there's news, I'll inform you immediately." Lu Chen nodded. Things could only be like this for the time being. The shooting had to continue tomorrow. He couldn't just stop farming when he heard Lalagoo's cry. He didn't want to run back to the mainland with his tail between his legs. If he didn't have a brave and fearless heart, even if he had the wealth of a world, how could he climb to the real peak? Before leaving, Nie Mingzhu, who had been silent, poured a cup of tea for Lu Chun. She said to Lu Chun, "I like this script very much, and I like the role of Nie Xiaoqian very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope we can continue to work together happily." Lu Chen didn't quite understand Nie Mingzhu's attitude, but he accepted her kindness. After leaving Oaken Club, Wan Xiaoquan expressed his dissatisfaction with Zhou Yi in the car. "This person is too cunning and unreliable. Do we really want to continue working with him?" Lu Chun explained, "If we give up working with Jiang Pictures now, things will become more troublesome. First, we have to figure out Honghua's real intentions, and then we'll make plans." It was good that Zhou Yi had made things clear. When the time came, Lu Chun would be justified in kicking them out. Most importantly, in the conversation just now, Lu Chun felt that Zhou Yi had a trump card. He wasn't afraid of the Jiang family as he had said, and it seemed more like he was testing Lu Chen's attitude. As a result, the next day, something happened at the famed Temple film set in Lion Rock Studio. Someone had thrown 2 dead cats into the set, and they were unlucky black cats. The necks of the cats were broken. They must have been thrown in secretly in the early hours of the morning, Wan Yong said to Lu Chun, who had just arrived at the set. I asked Xiao Chun to take care of it. I didn't tell anyone else. This was purely a disgusting method. The other party didn't steal or rob, but deliberately did something to disgust people. It was useless to call the police. The Xiangjiang police wouldn't take such a small matter seriously. Moreover, after calling the police, it would be easy for the paparazzi to take photos and put them on the media. It would only have a greater impact on the crew. Lu Chen listened to Chun Wenxiang's advice and asked him to secretly control the news and not spread it. Lu Chun was very glad that he had arranged for 2 more people to be stationed at the set last night. Otherwise, if there were loopholes in the management, it would be easy for the other party to take advantage of them, and they might cause even more damage. However, what he didn't expect was that before noon, the news of the dead cats being thrown on the set had spread among the crew. Everyone had a strange look on their faces, and many of the crew members were absent-minded. The shooting process was also not smooth. In the afternoon, someone proposed to quit the crew. Chapter 489. The composition of a regular film crew was quite complicated. In addition to the actors, there were also producers, production directors, producers, planners, art directors, cinematographers, and so on. In addition, there were stage managers, makeup artists, art designers, lighting artists, and prop masters, together with the financial assistants. The number of people could easily exceed 100, and even a few hundred was common. The crew of A Chinese Ghost Story was relatively small. Because there were not many characters in the film, the number of actors was relatively small. However, the necessary people could not be missing. Apart from the dozen or so members of Lu Chen's studio, most of the crew members were sent by Jiayong Pictures. Some of them were temporarily hired by the latter and did not belong to Jiayong Pictures. This was very normal. Otherwise, with the scale and strength of Jiayong Pictures, it would be impossible to support so many people. Even large film companies would pay attention to the number of employees. In the film and television industry, there were specialized agencies to solve this problem. Once a film company needed people for a new project, whether it was actors, scriptwriters, cameramen, recording artists, or even directors, they could be hired through an agency. This saved money to a great extent. There were 5 people who suddenly proposed to quit the crew. They were all assistants and handymen in the logistics department. They were not important people, and the crew could still operate without them. However, this was undoubtedly a dangerous signal. The dead cat incident on the set had caused the hearts of the crew of A Chinese Ghost Story to become very unstable. The filming plan was facing a serious situation, but it was not over yet. In the afternoon, the car that the crew had parked in the parking lot of the film and television city had its tires punctured, and all 4 tires were punctured. Zhang Xiaofeng had brought people to buy lunchboxes in this car yesterday and at noon. The intention of a saboteur was very obvious. Call the police. Lu Chun said to Chun Wenxiang, complained to the film and television city's management committee again. Lu Chun could still tolerate the dead cat being thrown at the set in the morning, but now he could not take it anymore. He knew very well that neither calling the police nor complaining would solve the problem. Even if the troublemakers were caught, the punishment would not be severe. They would be released after a few days in jail, and they could continue to cause damage. Moreover, it was still unknown whether they could find the culprit. This was not a criminal case. As long as Hong Hua's side continued to harass them, it would be enough to make the entire production team restless. They would not be able to focus on filming. The most disgusting thing about these gangs was that they could still achieve their goals without resorting to violent means of killing. In the face of such trouble, if the crew did not have strong enough connections, they would have no choice but to submit, pay protection fees, or share the profits to avoid the disaster. Lu Chen had also thought of spending money to avoid disaster, but the other party wanted a foot after taking an inch. things definitely wouldn't end well. Calling the police and filing a complaint was to show that he would never bow down. Chen Wenxiang nodded. I'll deal with it right away, but he hesitated for a moment before saying, but without direct evidence, we'd better not accuse Honghua. Even if you use your toes to think, everyone could figure out that this was done by Honghua. However, knowing was one thing. Pointing it out to the police and the management of the film studio was another. Without evidence, the other party would definitely sue them for defamation. Nowadays, these gangs had learned from the lessons of their predecessors. When they started companies, factories, and industries, they would hire lawyers to act as amulets. They were very good at using legal means to achieve their goals. Honghua might even be waiting for the crew to file a complaint against them. Chen Wenxiang's explanation was an eye-opener for Lu Chen. He didn't know that the underworld nowadays could be played like this. However, at this point, he couldn't back down. Chen Wenxiang had just taken out his phone to call the police when his phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and said a few words. His expression suddenly changed. The other party hung up very quickly. What's wrong? Lu Chen keenly sensed that something was wrong. He immediately asked, did something happen again? Chen Wenxiang nodded with a bitter smile and replied, Lu Jiaohui is not acting anymore. He quit the crew. Lu Jiaohui was the actor who played the role of Grandma Tree Spirit. He was a local of Xiangjiang and had played countless roles in the past few decades. He was quite famous for playing villains. Lu Chen had seen him many times when he watched Xiangjiang movies. The cast of A Chinese Ghost Story could be said to be weak. Lu Jiaohui was also considered a small star. Since Lu Jiaohui didn't have any scenes in the past 2 days, he wasn't on the set. However, it was obvious that he knew what had happened here. That was why he took the initiative to quit. This kind of veteran actor was usually very trustworthy. If his reputation was ruined in this industry, then no crew would be willing to hire him. It was equivalent to destroying his own rice bowl. If it wasn't for the great pressure, Lu Jiaohui definitely wouldn't break the contract like this. Mother asterisk Kerr. The more Chen Wenxiang thought about it, the angrier he got. He couldn't help but curse. This original actor was really a grandma. Lu Chen was almost amused by Chen Wenxiang's curse. Wasn't Lu Jiaohui hired by Jiayang? This role was fought over by Jiayang Pictures during the negotiation. Now that Lu Jiaohui broke the contract, it was also a slap in the face to Jiayang Pictures. How could Jiayang remain indifferent? Chen Wenxiang smiled bitterly. It was Jiayang's people who informed me. Then there was no turning back. Lu Chen also had the urge to curse. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a deep voice, Uncle Chang, don't call the police. Please ask Uncle Ma to come over. Chen Wenxiang was stunned. He immediately understood what Lu Chen meant. Lu Jiaohui ran away. If the other more important supporting actor, Ma Rongjin, also ran away, then the crew would be paralyzed. It would be a complete mess. Compared to Lu Jiaohui, who was doing well in the industry, Ma Rongjin, who had always been a flop, was probably even weaker. Therefore, at this time, Lu Chen couldn't panic. He had to find a way to stabilize the crew's morale. The first step was to ensure that an important role like Ma Rongjin wouldn't go wrong. Ma Rongjin soon arrived. Ma Rongjin was also a supporting actor, and he also didn't have any scenes to shoot. Ma Rongjin was different from Lu Jiaohui, who disappeared after the opening ceremony. He had been with the crew the whole time and even helped with some chores. Maybe because he had lost it before, Ma Rongjin knew how to cherish this opportunity. He didn't brag, but used his actions to show his efforts. Young Master Lu, you wanted to see me? Lu Chen asked directly. Uncle Ma, did anyone ask you to leave the crew? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.